I wake up and my whole body hurts like I got hit by a cart. My head is pounding too. Then, bam, a wave of memories crash into my brain. Oh great, I died from too much work in my old world, and now I'm stuck inside some kid named Wang Changle. 13 years old. Village troublemaker. Steals chickens for fun. Cool. Love that for me. I crack my eyes open just enough to spy the room. My little brother and sister are huddled at the end of the bed, bruised up and scared, hugging the wall like it might save them. My mom is crying. My dad just stands there with his head down, like a man who lost a fight before it even started. And through the door, I hear my big uncle's voice, cold as ice, divide the family. Tonight, wait, what? Turns out, the old me, the idiot who used to live in this body, snuck into a scholar's house last night to steal stuff, got caught, got beaten half to death, and dragged home like a sack of turnips. Worse, my second uncle is studying to become a scholar, and guess whose house I robbed? Yep, the scholar he's trying to be best friends with. Smooth move, old me. Real smooth. So now Grandma and Grandpa are calling me trash. Second Anne is out there screaming that our whole branch of the family is a bunch of thieves. And my fourth uncle, the guy who actually talked me into robbing the house and then ran away like a coward, is hiding in the corner saying nothing. Absolutely nothing. Just standing there like a guilty houseplant. Thanks, man. Really appreciate you letting me take the fall. My dad comes back from begging the scholar for forgiveness. He waited 2 hours outside a locked door. Didn't even get to say sorry. He drops a little dried fish and meat on the bed and doesn't say a word. My mom's whole body just deflates. That's it. No more hope. We're getting kicked out into the snow. Nobody in this family even asks the real question. Why would an already half-dead kid sneak out to steal stuff in the freezing cold? Nope. Easier to just blame the bad kid and toss my whole family into a blizzard. Before we go, my aunt, the nice one, not screaming uncle's wife, sneaks my mom 2 eggs like she's smuggling gold. We eat one last meal together. Plain rice with wild veggies, cabbage, some bean paste, and my little siblings eat like it's a 5-star banquet because apparently that's the best meal they've had in half a year. So here I am. New body. Broken reputation. A family about to be homeless in the dead of winter. And 0 cheat powers so far. Great start to my second life. Truly inspiring stuff. Big Aunt slips 2 eggs into my mom's hands and refuses to take them back. My parents almost cry from the shock of someone being nice. Big Aunt pats my little siblings' heads and leaves like a ninja who only does good deeds. Next up, my thief mentor fourth uncle, sneaking in with 2 bags like he's smuggling contraband. Turns out it's salt, dried meat, fish, and, plot twist, a whole bag of candy. Candy. My guy can't feed himself, but he's got a secret candy stash like a dragon guarding treasure. We can't afford rice, and this man's out here hoarding sugar. Absolute legend of bad priorities. My little sister's eyes go full sparkle mode at the candy. My mom melts a piece and drips sugar water into my mouth. It's not amazing candy, but compared to the bitter medicine I've been drinking, best thing I've ever tasted in 2 lifetimes. Dad, meanwhile, decides fourth uncle is secretly a good guy now because of a little meat and salt. Buddy. He's the reason I got beaten half to death and now hides in corners like a guilty raccoon. Good guy is a stretch. But I can't talk yet, so I just internally scream. My little sister, only 9, doesn't touch the meat or fish, saves it all for me. She and my brother inhale 2 bowls of plain veggie rice like it's a feast. My parents don't even eat a real meal, just drink hot water with a little cabbage broth to trick their stomachs into shutting up. My mom is skin and bones. This family has been surviving on vibes and starvation for way too long. Then my throat finally unlocks and I croak out, "Mom," instant chaos. My mom drops everything, tears flooding down like a broken dam, asking if I'm okay 100 times. I finally get a good look at my new parents. Mom's clothes are patched rags, hands frozen stiff. Dad's back is bent from years of farm work, wearing threadbare everything. They piled both of our family's blankets on me last night, which means they probably froze all night so I wouldn't. I try to say I didn't actually steal anything, that it was fourth uncle's fault, but Mom cuts me off immediately. She thinks I'm just scared and trying to dodge blame. Great. Even my own parents think past me is a lying degenerate. Thanks for the reputation, past me. Really solid work. Mom peels an egg for me. I eat the whole thing. A big deal, since in this house eggs go to second uncle first. He's the smart one. then to fourth uncle, grandma's favorite, then to big uncle's family, and only maybe, eventually, to us. My little sister barely gets to sit at the table without grandma glaring lasers into her skull. So yeah, now I get it. This is why past me turned into a tiny thief. Kid was just hungry. I make myself a promise right there. Whatever food we get, we share as a family, starting now. I split the second egg between my siblings. They chew it like it's the finest delicacy in the empire. Watching two starving kids enjoy plain boiled egg like royalty absolutely destroys my heart. New life goal: get this family fed. Everything else can wait. Dad asks if I'm feeling better. I say I am. Truth is, there's no point arguing anymore. Grandpa, Grandma, Big Uncle, they've all already decided I'm the thief. Doesn't matter what I say now. Nobody wants to hear it. Story of my life. Wake up in a new body, and the body comes with a criminal record I didn't even earn. Why couldn't I transmigrate into someone with a good reputation? Just once. Nope. Universe said, here's a chicken thief. Good luck. I actually apologized to my parents for the whole mess, on behalf of past me, obviously. Dad pats my shoulder like it's the proudest moment of his life. Mom straight up cries happy tears. Apparently me apologizing is basically a historical event. She tells me she's done being sad about the split. Grandpa and Grandma have ignored us for years, favored my uncles, and now that I've hit hard times they practically want me dead. Enough is enough. Mom's fully on team divide the family now. Then here comes Grandpa, Big Uncle, and the village head to do the actual splitting. Second aunt is there too, screaming, thief, every other sentence like it's her favorite word. She's clearly using this whole thing as an excuse to grab everything and leave us with scraps. I mentally add her to my future revenge list. And what do we get? Basically nothing. They keep the good rice, the eggs, the meat, most of the oil, most of the salt. We get some grain, some vegetables, 2 chickens, 2 ducks, some basic farm tools, and a broken-down cart full of wet firewood. Big Aunt secretly slips my mom 10 copper coins when nobody's looking. Bless her soul, she's the MVP of this entire family. Also, plot twist, second uncle, the golden child, scholar who always eats first and does zero work, doesn't even bother showing up to watch his own family get thrown out into a blizzard. Too good for us peasants, I guess. So there we go, officially kicked out. 5 of us trudging into the snow toward an abandoned shack that used to belong to some guy who died in March. Awesome. Love that for us. It's probably negative 20 degrees out here, and I've got a family of 5, empty pockets, and a body that can barely walk. Where's my cheap power? Where's my overpowered system? I got ice guyed into a snowstorm with a starving family and 0 superpowers. Worst tutorial ever. Then, out of nowhere, my aunt and cousin show up running through the snow. Aunt offers us her house. My cousin Ty Dan, built like an ox and about as sharp as a rock, grabs our cart like it weighs nothing and grins at me like the world's happiest golden retriever. I try to play dead and avoid eye contact. Doesn't work. Changle brother, it's me, Ty Dan. Open your eyes and look. My aunt won't take no for an answer. She's already got the heated bed ready for us before we even show up, waving us in like a general commanding troops. Dad, a man who has never once bowed his head to ask anyone for anything, finally cracks. He sees Mom and my siblings shivering in the snow and just breaks. First time I've ever seen him cry. We roll into Aunt's house, and it's warm. Actually warm. 2 new blankets, hot on the bed. Cousin Ty Dan scoops me up like I weigh nothing and dumps me straight onto the warm bed, feeding me hot water like I'm a baby bird. My whole body finally stops shaking. Aunt whips up millet porridge and pickled veggies for everyone. Ty Dan personally carries my little siblings onto the bed like they're VIP guests. My aunt apologizes for not having meat, which is hilarious because compared to what we just left, this is basically a 5-star hotel. Mom cries again. She's got an unlimited supply of tears at this point, thanking Aunt for saving us. Dad just sits there feeling like a failure, spent his whole life working hard, and still ended up homeless, relying on his married-off sister for charity. But Aunt shuts that down immediately. She reminds him that when SHE had nothing, when her family was starving, it was my dad and big uncle who secretly fed her family for half a year while my grandparents did basically nothing. Turns out the loyalty debt runs both directions. Mental note, Aunt and Ty Dan officially added to my people I will spoil rotten once I'm rich list. List getting long, but hey, gotta start somewhere. We count our fortune, some silver bits and copper coins from Big Uncle and Big Aunt. Enough to not starve if we're careful. My little sister spoon feeds me porridge like she actually likes me now, which, fair, past me was apparently a nightmare to live with. My little brother still won't sit close to me though. Dude looks at me like I might bite him. Honestly, deserved. Whatever past me did to a 6-year-old, I don't want to know. I ask Mom to slice up the leftover meat for my siblings instead of hoarding it for myself. Everyone's shocked. Apparently, generous older brother is a completely new character mode for this family. My sister hesitates to eat first, terrified I'll hit her for going before me. Old habits, old fears. I just pat her cheek and tell her to eat. My little brother inhales his piece like it's the greatest thing that's ever touched his tongue. We all sleep piled together in the warmest spot of the house, and for the first time since I got here, everyone's actually comfortable. Next morning, the whole village decides to show up like Black Friday shoppers, except instead of buying stuff, they're just giving us stuff. Neighbors pour in with millet, pancakes, salt, firewood, eggs, because apparently my dad spent years quietly helping half the village, and now it's payback time. One guy tries to dump an entire sack of millet into our jar before anyone can stop him. A neighbor lady brings buns because I apparently used to steal her cucumbers. Oops, sorry, future me promises to stop that. Turns out being kicked out into the snow with nothing comes with a silver lining. My dad's basically the most beloved guy in the village, and everyone's lining up to make sure we don't starve. Not bad for a worst tutorial ever, Ice Guy. Not bad at all. The whole village keeps showing up like it's a charity parade. Millet, sorghum, beans, radishes, eggs, garlic, buns. Everyone's dropping off food like we're the neighborhood mascot now. Some little kids even come in just to chat with me. My siblings' eyes are huge. Never seen this much food in one place in their whole lives. The village head shows up twice. First with a whole pound of tofu for my mom, because apparently tofu heals bruises, folk medicine. Don't ask me, I just live here. Second time he shows up on behalf of fourth uncle, dropping off some bruise medicine that guy probably stole from somewhere. Too guilty to deliver it himself. Classic fourth uncle. Feels bad. Sends gifts through a middleman instead of showing his face. Aunt makes breakfast, rice porridge, pickled radish, 2 eggs, and won't let anyone else touch the kitchen. My body's finally waking up a little, feeling coming back into my legs one at a time like I'm defrosting. My little sister climbs up and feeds me egg yolk piece by piece, copying what Mom did yesterday. She's warming up to me. My little brother's still cautious. Trauma doesn't heal overnight. Fair enough. Then Aunt brings out cabbage tofu soup, fried in actual oil, which around here is basically luxury dining. My parents are practically crying into their bowls. This family owes the village head and my aunt a debt they'll never fully repay. After breakfast, Dad crushes up some herbal medicine to put on my bruises. When he pulls back my clothes, even tough guy Dad tears up a little. I'm covered in purple and green like a walking bruise map. Titan gasps like he just saw a crime scene. Poor guy asks if it hurts. I lie and say no, then immediately hiss in pain the second the medicine touches skin. Smooth save me. I've officially been in this world a full day now, and my brain hasn't handed me a single cheat power. Not one. All I know for sure is this world isn't real history, because real history definitely didn't have tofu, candy, or cucumbers this early. Fake dynasty confirmed. I choke down bitter herbal medicine like a champ, figuring the faster I heal, the faster I stop being useless. Village folks donated a solid pile of firewood and about 90 pounds of grain total between everything. Sounds like a lot, except with 5 mouths to feed. That's maybe 6 weeks of food, and winter's got 3 more months left. No land, no spring harvest either. Dad goes quiet, doing the math, getting more furious at Grandpa and Grandma by the second. I drift off watching Dad hunched in the corner, shoulder blades poking through his thin shirt like coat hangers, wind howling through the cracked door. And this time, when I fall asleep, the last of the old memories finally click into place. I now know exactly what kind of collapsing, corrupt, freezing cold empire I've landed myself in. Cool. Great. Love an ice guy with inflation, corruption, and an ice age. Where's my overpowered system already? I wake up and just stare at the ceiling for a while, thinking about my life choices. Empire falling apart, barbarians invading, pirates on the coast, mini ice age hitting, and my big plan of Just catch some fish and survive. Just crumbled because apparently this village's stream has nothing but tiny shrimp and sad little fish. Cool. Love that. My little sister's glued to my side, checking my forehead every few minutes like a tiny medical professional. Aunt taught her the trick. She's thrilled I'm not running a fever, mostly because healthy brother probably means less likely to get smacked. Fair assumption based on past me's track record. Outside, Tiedon's teaching my little brother some rock-throwing game, both of them cracking up. The second Tai-Dan hears I'm awake, he zooms over to feed me water, self-appointed hydration officer. Kid's built like a bull and just as eager. He asks if I can walk yet. Gets smacked by Aunt for even suggesting it. He just got medicine on. What do you mean, can he walk? Tai-Dan nods, immediately pivots to demanding his mom cook something good for me. Absolute golden retriever energy, this guy. Turns out I slept a full day, morning to night. Dad's out hauling water. Mom's in the kitchen killing a chicken for soup. My siblings' eyes light up at the word, chicken. Apparently back home, getting chicken bones that second uncle spat out was basically a holiday treat. Devastating backstory for a chicken bone, honestly. I test my body and realize, hey, I can actually move now. These local herbs work fast. I decide I'm getting up tonight, screw resting, my back's about 2 more hours away from turning into a pressure sore. I get my little brother to warm up to me a little, trick him into touching my forehead, then yank him into the blankets with me. Poor kid's terrified for 2 seconds, then realizes it's warm and cozy and stops fighting it. Baby steps. Literally. Behind the kitchen wall, I overhear Aunt going off on Grandpa and Grandma for giving us useless old hens that don't even lay eggs anymore, while Mom quietly agrees, completely done with that whole side of the family. Aunt promises to help however she can, tofu making, pickling, anything, once spring comes. Dad finally gets back from hauling water 3 trips worth, storing it wrapped in old cotton so it doesn't freeze solid overnight. This house's walls are way sturdier than our old place, good enough to keep animals out completely. Then the chicken soup arrives. Tai-Dan is practically drooling just from the smell, even reminding his mom to add extra salt because apparently he remembers that's how I like it. Which, honestly, kind of touching that this guy remembers my seasoning preferences after everything. I insist on getting up to eat instead of staying in bed, because lying down sipping soup sounds miserable. Everyone rushes to help me down like I'm made of glass. Little embarrassing, but also, not gonna lie, kind of nice having people fuss over me for once. First thing I do once I'm up, walk straight to the pot and pour soup for Tai-Dan, my sister, and my brother too. Aunt panics, saying the soup's for me. That Tiedon's not even sick, don't waste it on him. I don't budge. If the kids don't drink, I don't either. Dad and Mom just watch, quietly amazed. From sharing an egg to sharing chicken soup, it's a small thing, but it means everything to them. Aunt finally gives in, still baffled by how much I've changed. Honestly, same lady. Same. Tai-Dan and my brother chug their soup without even waiting for it to cool. My sister looks up at Mom and Dad, unsure if she's allowed to drink hers first this time. They just smile and tell her to go ahead. She takes one tiny sip, closes her eyes like she just tasted heaven, then another sip. Splitting the family up turns out to be the best thing that ever happened to her. She's basically ready to get kicked out every week if it means soup like this. Dad's out there feeding the fire, grinning like an idiot, happier than he's been in years despite technically being homeless right now. Mom asks what he's smiling about. He just goes, heh, because the man communicates almost exclusively in grunts and shy smiles. Aunt and Mom pick every last shred of meat off the chicken bones. Nothing wasted, not even the little white tendons. The bones go straight into a pot for cabbage radish stew later. Aunt even makes soft dumplings with mixed grain flour instead of the usual rock-hard millet bricks, specifically so the kids get something nicer to dip in soup. Mom's mind is blown. Back home, dumplings were basically edible bricks. I split my soup with my siblings again, drink what's left, and grab the chicken feet for the kids. Nobody, not Dad, not Mom, not Aunt, will touch the soup themselves. Classic rural parent move. Kids eat good, adults survive on leftovers. Meanwhile back home, second uncle ate an entire egg every single day just because he could read books. The audacity. After dinner, I finally get to pee outside for the first time, and let me tell you, outhouse next to a chicken pen smells worse than anything I remembered from my old life. First thing I'm building once I'm rich, a nice bathroom. Non-negotiable. Standing outside, I check out the village properly. Dead quiet at night. No lights anywhere, and the stream's completely frozen over. 3 mountains surround the village, east, west, and south. Immediately my brain goes, ice skating. Then I remember I'm supposed to be worrying about food, not winter sports. Priorities me. I ask Tai-Dan about the mountains. He panics instantly, assuming I want to go hiking into them, which, yeah, correct assumption, buddy, I do. He explains the East Mountain used to have hunters until a few years back, when tigers apparently started eating people. Cool. Cool. The West Mountain is safer, persimmons, wild dates, hazelnuts. The South Mountain is full of snakes and, according to village legend, might have a literal dragon living in it. A dragon. Called it. Something's finally getting interesting around here. I decide, West Mountain first, once I'm healed up. Can't let some snow stop an ice guy protagonist. Tai-Dan sneaks me dried persimmons that night. Proper sweet, chewy, delicious. I split them with my siblings instead of eating alone, and my little brother actually thanks me out loud for the first time. Small victory, but it hits different. Next morning, Dad spends almost half our entire savings on medicine for me. Comes back looking gloomy. Turns out the whole village has been gossiping about the thief incident, and it's wearing on him. I feel the weight of that. Gotta get better fast and turn this family's luck around. Days pass. 2 days. I can walk without help. 3 days. Full mobility. 5 days. Completely healed. Energy through the roof. Dad's smiling more than I've ever seen. Even my once terrified little brother is laughing now. 6 days later, I'm standing at the base of the West Mountain, snow everywhere, bundled up in Aunt's homemade coat, ready to finally do something useful. And then a robotic voice goes off in my head. Congratulations, host. You have awakened the strongest hunting system. Current hunting level, 1. Well, there it is. Finally. I finally get my cheat power, and honestly, not surprised. Every Ice Guy hero gets one eventually. I check it out and find one skill. Perfect aim. I pick up a rock and throw it at a tree branch nearby. Bullseye, dead center. I try again on a bigger stump 10 steps away. Still perfect. I'm basically vibrating with excitement, jumping around like the 13-year-old I technically am now. Then I try a tree 20 steps out. Mississippi way off. Turns out my god tier aim has a range limit. I run a bunch of tests like a proper nerd and figure out the sweet spot. 20 meters, dead accurate every single time. Not exactly. Kill a dragon from a mile away. Material. But for a former petty thief with 0 training, that's basically sniper-level skill. Actual archers in the army can barely pull that off past 30 or 40 meters. Wait, I'm basically a marksman now. Naturally, my brain goes, forget rocks, I need a bow. Bigger weapon, bigger damage, easier time not getting eaten by tigers. Problem is, bows cost real money. Like, half our winter food budget, money, and arrows aren't cheap either. We've got barely 200 copper coins left, and I'm out here dreaming about weaponry we can't afford. Money really is the root of all my problems. Tai-Dan comes jogging up, freezing, wearing basically nothing but a thin shirt, asking if I'm seriously planning to go into the mountains. Says his mom never lets him go in winter, but if I'm going, he wants to come too. I tell him I haven't decided yet. Then I take off Aunt's coat, actually Tai-Dan's coat that Aunt insisted I wear, and give it back to him since he's clearly freezing. We head home. Aunt immediately scolds Tai-Dan for letting me give up my coat, orders him to hand it right back. I try to explain it was my idea. Doesn't matter. Aunt wins. Coat goes back on me. Inside, everyone's cozy by the fire. My little brother's helping with the cooking now, learning to pull his weight. My mom's teaching my sister how to season the cabbage radish bone stew we've been living on for days. Turns out balancing salt is basically rocket science when you're trying to stretch it across 7 people. Mom's clearly relieved I came back empty-handed, instead of dragging home someone's stolen chicken. Dad's off patching a neighbor's leaking roof after last night's snowstorm. Because apparently, even homeless and broke, the guy still finds time to help everyone else in the village. I sneak into Aunt's kitchen and grab a knife. Way better than rocks for what I've got planned. Feeling extra motivated, I head for the door with the knife in hand, ready to surprise the family with a nice extra meal today. Tai-Dan spots me and yells so loud snow practically shakes off the roof. Mom and Aunt come rushing out, and the second they see me holding a knife with a fired-up look on my face, panic mode activates instantly. Mom's brain jumps straight to he's going to get revenge on the scholar's family, which, no, absolutely not what's happening. But try telling that to a mother who's already had one heart attack this week over me. Lunch comes first, though, and Aunt goes all out celebrating my recovery. 4 whole dishes. Cabbage radish bone stew, spicy stir-fried chicken innards, tofu cabbage blood soup, dried beans, and mushrooms with chicken. I skip most of the meat, letting my siblings have it, and definitely skip the blood soup. Modern guy stomach says absolutely not to that smell. Everyone eats until they're stuffed, my siblings smiling nonstop, because apparently this is the most food-filled, drama-free meal they've had in their entire lives. Mid-meal I ask Aunt if she's got a chisel. Mom immediately panics again, begging me not to do anything reckless. Dad chimes in too, telling me not to go picking fights with the scholar's family. Aunt even signals Ty Dan to distract me with games. Everyone's fully convinced I'm plotting a revenge mission with kitchen tools. I finally set my bowl down and explain myself properly. I'm not getting revenge. I want to chip a hole in the frozen stream and try to catch some fish. Relief floods the table, until Dad points out we don't even own a fishing rod, spear, or net, and warns me not to go anywhere near the water since it could kill me. I promise to stay on the ice, not in it. Mom's still nervous, so I offer to bring Ty Dan along as backup, and that finally settles everyone down, with strict orders that neither of us touches the water. After the meal, Ty Dan grabs rope, a wooden stick, and the chisel, sticking to me like glue, fully committed to his mission of keeping Changle out of trouble. Mom even tears part of a blanket to make me an extra coat, refusing to let me freeze after everything Aunt's already done for us. Down by the stream, it's brutally cold, maybe 20 below, ears and feet taking the worst of it. The snow's untouched. Nobody's crazy enough to be out here in this weather except us. I have Ty Dan drill a hole through the wooden knife handle and tie a long rope through it, turning it into a makeshift retrievable ice tool. We clear the snow off a section of ice, find a spot with bubbles trapped underneath, and Ty Dan starts chiseling away while I keep watch. After about 15 minutes of solid effort, we finally break through. A small hole opens up in the ice. Ty Dan takes over chiseling since he's stronger than me, by a mile, and honestly, the guy's just happy to have someone to hang out with. Being the outsider's kid means he's never really had friends in this village. He grips that rope like his life depends on it, standing guard like a soldier while I get ready to work. I explain my genius plan. Fish under the ice get sluggish and dumb from the cold, and once you open a hole, they swarm toward the light and air like it's a 5-star buffet. Tiedon's confused about how we're supposed to catch fish with no net, so I whip out my secret weapon, a sharpened kitchen knife tied to a stick with rope, basically a homemade spear. Ty Dan mentions his dad always used a proper barbed spear for real fishing. I tell him poor people don't get to be picky. Then I spot a shadow in the water. Snap decision, arm goes flying, spear plunges in. Crack, blood blooms in the water. Direct hit. I yank the rope and haul up a little crucian carp flopping on the ice. Tiedon's jaw practically hits the snow. He didn't even see the fish before I struck it. To him, it looks like actual magic. Little does he know it's just my ridiculously broken perfect aim skill doing free work. My system quietly pings, 1 point earned. First confirmation that killing stuff apparently levels me up. Neat. Still no idea what the points actually do though. Typical stingy system, all power, 0 explanations. I wait for the blood cloud to clear so I don't spook the next fish, mentally noting that blood might actually work great as bait later. Then immediately laugh at myself for overthinking bait strategy for a stream this small. Big mountain hunting trips coming soon anyway. Another shadow flickers by. Spear flies. Crack. This one's bigger, a carp. Ty Dan absolutely loses it, screaming with joy because apparently carp is his all-time favorite food, tied to childhood memories of his dad fishing for him. Watching me land a direct hit on a moving carp with a sharpened stick turns his admiration into full-blown disbelief. Even his fisherman-blooded father, he says, could never pull off a clean strike like that. We keep going until our feet are basically ice blocks, and I finally call it quits. Ty Dan sprints home like a rooster who just won a cockfight, screaming for a basket, completely convinced I've somehow become the greatest fisherman in village history. Back home, Mom hears, basket, and immediately assumes the worst, that I've corrupted sweet, innocent Ty Dan into a life of thievery. She's fully forgotten the whole I'm just going fishing, conversation from lunch, because apparently my track record has permanently rewired her brain to assume crime first, ask questions later. Aunt, thankfully, remembers and just laughs, already guessing we caught something. Final tally for the day: 3 crucian carp, 3 carp, 1 a solid half-pound beauty, and 4 minnows survived out of the 24 minnows I actually speared. Turns out minnows are so small my spear just snaps them in half. Not exactly a legendary haul, but for a family that hasn't eaten real fish in years, it might as well be a king's feast. My little sister heats up water so Tied In and I can warm our frozen hands and faces. I notice deep rope marks on his hands. He gripped that thing way too hard, poor guy. Dad gets home and spots the fish stew cooking. First reaction, pure guilt. He assumes Aunt bought expensive carp for us and tells her to stop spending money on us. Save it for Tiedon's future wedding instead. The man looks like he wants to sink into the floor from embarrassment. Aunt clears it up. I caught the fish myself. Tied In, meanwhile, has apparently told the story about 10 times already, each version more dramatic than the last, basically turning me into some kind of legendary fishing wizard with a magic kitchen knife. Even my little brother is repeating the story now like he witnessed it personally. My sister won't stop asking me questions about it either. Dad checks the carp and sees the deep gash from my weapon, completely baffled by the method. Aunt brags about me like I just won an award. Mom, meanwhile, is stuck somewhere between proud and terrified, swinging a knife tied to rope over a hole in the ice. Sounds like a great way to lose a kid, but 8 fish in a basket is hard to argue with when you've got hungry children. Mom insists Aunt cook a couple extra fish. Worried Aunt's been running herself ragged taking care of us. Aunt fake scolds her for treating family like guests. While everyone bustles around the kitchen, I check my status panel in my head. Turns out my hunting level jumped up, and I got a bonus skill that slowly boosts my strength over time. Barely noticeable for now, but exciting to think about where it goes. I start daydreaming about what amazing skill I might unlock next. Legendary martial arts, cultivation techniques, the works. Then immediately remind myself this world doesn't seem to run on that kind of power level. Manage expectations, me. Tied In begs me to teach him my fishing technique. I explain the basics, though I mention a hook would honestly work better than a stick for actually snagging a fish's mouth. He's thrilled, bouncing around the kitchen until Aunt kicks him outside to burn off energy. My little brother watches with sparkling eyes, though he's still too small to come along to the stream himself. Dinner is incredible. Fish soup, actual meat in my bowl, warm dumplings, the whole family eating together, laughing, the kitchen filled with good smells. Compared to my old life of endless overtime, this chaotic, cramped, freezing little house feels more like paradise than anywhere I've ever lived. But then I notice something that kills my appetite instantly. My parents and aunt aren't touching the fish soup, just eating plain dumplings and pickles while the kids get everything good. Nope, not happening. I demolish my portion fast, then sneak into the kitchen and pour the rest of the soup, all of it, into bowls for Dad, Mom, and Aunt, leaving just the scraps for us kids. When Aunt tries to insist she's saving it for me, Dad quietly steps in and tells her to just accept it, that it's my way of showing I care. Mom turns away, clearly overwhelmed, silently amazed at how much I've changed. Tied In and my little brother have zero idea what's happening emotionally. They're just thrilled about more fish broth to slurp up. My little sister still doesn't quite get why the grown-ups won't touch the meat, but the pattern's clear now. Mom, Dad, Aunt sip broth, kids get everything solid. If I want that to change, I need real hunting gear, and fast. I ask Dad if anyone in the village owns a hunting bow. Mom nearly has a heart attack. Knife, chisel, now a bow? Her brain immediately jumps to. He's planning to murder the scholar's family with an arrow. Aunt looks worried too. Dad, calmer than both of them, explains there's a bow hanging in Widow Lou's yard, belonged to her husband, who got gored to death by a wild boar hunting in the East Mountain last year. Still has his blood on it. Cheerful bedtime story, thanks Dad. The message is clear. Mountain hunting kills people. Please don't die like that guy did. Mom makes me promise never to go into the East Mountain. Easy promise. I never planned to anyway. I'm not suicidal, just ice-guyed. Tied In wants to tag along on tonight's mystery errand. I shut that down. Showing up at a widow's house after dark with a teenage boy is exactly the kind of thing that destroys reputations in villages like this. and mine's already trashed enough. Instead, I bring my little sister, who's thrilled when I tell her she's smarter than Ty Dan for the job. First compliment she's gotten from me in this timeline, and she's glowing like I handed her a trophy. We trek through the snow to Widow Lou's house, my sister calling out politely at the gate. The widow's daughter lets her in, and a few minutes later my sister comes back out, holding a bow and 3 arrows instead of the 2 fish we brought as a gift. Deal secured. 2 fish a month, rented bow and arrows in return. Widow Lou even thanks me for the food and tells me to just ask next time instead of bothering to trade. I carry my sister home on my back, oil lamp glowing warm in the dark, feeling pretty good about tonight's diplomacy mission. Only real problem, my strength stat is still garbage. Perfect aim doesn't mean much if the arrow doesn't hit hard enough to actually drop anything. That night, everyone lies awake with their own worries. Dad thinking about spring farmland. Mom worrying herself into oblivion over her suddenly fearless son. Aunt torn between anxiety and genuine happiness that the house feels. Alive again, Ty Dan plotting his own fishing glory. My little sister falling asleep grinning about being called smart. And my little brother just replaying the taste of fish soup. In his head like it's a religious experience. Next morning I wake up to Mom and my sister already cooking, determined to fuel me up properly before my hunting trip. My strengths crept up a little more overnight, small but steady progress. First order of business, turning those arrows into something that actually flies straight. I ask Aunt if she kept the feathers from the chicken we ate the other day. I raid Aunt's leftover chicken feathers, using the stiff wing and tail ones for fletching my arrows, sealed on with fish glue. Turns out nothing on a chicken goes to waste here. Soft feathers become bedding, scrap feathers become fertilizer. Everything has a job. Meanwhile, back on Earth, I just threw chicken bones in the trash like a savage. Breakfast turns into a full ambush. Rice porridge, a duck egg, a chicken egg, and a mountain of dumplings. Mom's clearly trying to stuff me so full I physically can't make it up the mountain. I promise I'm only going partway up the West Mountain. Nowhere dangerous, just like the herb gatherers do. Dad stays silent, which apparently counts as his vote too. I force down what feels like an entire harvest just to get everyone to let me leave the house. Then Ty Dan announces he's coming with me. Me, Mom, and Aunt all shout, and oh, in perfect unison. He sulks, disappears into the back room, and comes back dragging an enormous hammer like that solves the danger problem. Everyone just stares at him in silence. Since Aunt only has the one kid, and I refuse to be responsible for getting him gored by a boar, I set up a little demonstration. I hang a fish eyeball on the courtyard wall, 20 meters out, and tell Ty Dan if he can hit it, he can come with me. He immediately admits defeat before even trying. So I draw my bow, and in under 2 seconds, put an arrow straight through the fish's eye. The whole family loses their minds. My sister's practically vibrating with excitement, my brother's drooling with awe, and even Dad, a guy who doesn't show emotion, beams with pride like I just graduated top of my class. Mom finally relaxes. A little, comforted that her chaotic son at least has a skill that isn't getting beaten half to death by strangers. Ty Dan just stands there completely shook, wondering when exactly I secretly became an archery prodigy. I head into the mountain solo, dressed like an actual hunter now. Coat, basket, rope, bow, knife, gloves, and a gourd of rice wine Aunt insisted I bring. For warmth. At the base of the West Mountain, other villagers are already heading in too. Hunters, herb gatherers digging for winter roots, woodcutters chopping away in the cold. Nobody's out here for fun. Everyone's just trying to survive the winter, same as us. The mountain is steep, quiet, and eerily uniform in its whiteness. No animal tracks for what feels like forever, which is nerve-wracking when your entire family's dinner depends on this trip actually working out. But patience is basically the whole job description of being a hunter, so I keep moving, scanning, staying alert. About an hour in, I finally spot something. Paw prints in the snow near a bush. Small front prints, a long drag mark trailing behind from the back paws. Rabbit tracks. Finally, something to hunt. I spot fresh tracks, still damp, meaning the rabbit's close. My first real kill in this world, since fish barely count. I sprinkle some chili pepper brand mix Widow Lou gave me, an old hunter's trick to make rabbits sneeze and give away their hiding spot. It works instantly. A bush shakes nearby. I creep around and spot it. A rabbit buried in a snow burrow, gray fur barely visible. Completely unaware, I'm 10 steps away. My hands are actually shaking with excitement as I draw the bow. First shot goes wide. The rabbit kicks up snow right as I fire, nudging my arrow off course. It bolts, but it has no idea what it's dealing with. Perfect aim doesn't care about snow kicks. The wind itself seems to bend my arrow back on target, and it drives straight into the rabbit's leg. Second shot finishes the job, straight through the head. 3.5 pounds of prime rabbit meat, still warm in my hands. My whole family's eating well tonight. I clean it properly, drain the blood, pack it in snow and ash to kill the smell, wrap it in cloth, and bury it at the bottom of my basket before getting out of there fast, because lingering near fresh blood in these mountains is how hunters become the hunted. I take a break at midday in an open clearing where nothing can sneak up on me, eating the mountain of food Mom packed: dumplings, cured meat, dried fish. Normal hunters bring like 2 wild vegetable cakes. Mom packed enough for a small army, because apparently my survival depends on never once feeling hungry. I skip the wine for now, saving it for when it actually gets cold enough to need it. I don't sit still for more than a few minutes at a time, rotating direction constantly, staying alert. No naps. 13-year-old body, fully healed, running on pure adrenaline. After another hour with nothing to show for it, I figure the good game's all hiding deeper in the mountain, past where I promised Mom I wouldn't go. Strength stats still too weak to survive anything bigger than a rabbit, so deep mountain boars are staying off my menu for now. Smart move, not a sad one. A flock of crows flies overhead, way outside my 20-meter range, so I let them go and keep moving. Then I spot a flash of reddish-brown against the snow, a pheasant. A male, alone, which is rare since they usually flock together in winter. I get suspicious for a second, wondering if something's off, but staying cautious never hurt anybody. Turns out it's just a straggler pecking at some minerals on a rock wall, probably starving and not thinking straight. I creep in using slow, silent half-steps, leaving no tracks until I'm within range. One shot, straight through the head, down before it even knows what happened. I'm grinning ear to ear, my first hunting trip, and I'm already loaded down with kills. I don't get sloppy though, same careful routine as with the rabbit. Check my surroundings before I even move toward the pheasant. One more arrow to the head just to be safe, and it's done for good. More points roll in. Turns out actual hunting pays way better than my little ice fishing hobby. No time to waste. I sling the basket over my shoulder and start jogging down the mountain. It's already late afternoon, and I'm still deep in, with sketchy slopes and hidden snow pits everywhere, just waiting to swallow a careless kid whole. I push through anyway, and eventually spot smoke rising from Aunt's chimney in the distance. Dinner's cooking, they're waiting on me. Wind picks up, snow's slapping my face. My shoes are soaked through and my feet have gone completely numb. I crack open the wine gourd Aunt packed and take a big gulp. Burns like fire going down, but it works. Feeling comes back into my toes. Then I hear rustling in the bushes. Something's there. Small. I go full stealth mode, knife between my teeth, bow ready, creeping in low. And there it is, a snow-white fox with a tail tip red as blood, currently enjoying a fresh field mouse for dinner. A snow fox, with a red-tipped tail, no less. Apparently the rare, extra valuable kind that rich city ladies pay a fortune for coats made from. This is exactly the kind of lucky break that could actually change my family's situation. I inch closer, painfully slow, freezing wind cutting into my face the whole way, until I'm finally within range. The fox senses something and freezes for a second. I hold completely still. Then hunger wins, and it goes back to its meal. First shot hits its back leg. It topples, then somehow springs back up, grabs its mouse, and starts hobbling away like an absolute menace with priorities. Respect the commitment to dinner, honestly. Second shot lands in its other back leg. Now it can barely move, but the crafty little thing leaps up a tree anyway, flinging the mouse at my face as a distraction before scrambling up through the branches. Smart. Not smart enough, though. I switch to my knife, predict where it'll land next, and hurl it. Snaps the branch clean, sends the fox tumbling back down. One final arrow finishes the job. 3 arrows, 1 thrown knife, and a whole lot of patience just to take down one fox. My strength stat is really holding me back here. But it's in the basket now, and my shoulders are feeling the weight of a genuinely good day. By the time I'm done, it's pitch dark and the wind's howling. Then I hear voices calling my name. Dad and Ty Dan, out looking for me. I run toward them, adrenaline carrying me the whole way. Dad checks every inch of me for injuries before he lets himself relax, then hands over warm dumplings Mom made, worried I haven't eaten. Tide grabs my gear immediately, nearly stumbling under the weight, completely stunned at how much I actually caught. We head back down together, Tide already yelling ahead to let everyone know I'm home. Tide runs ahead screaming my name loud enough to wake the whole village. I want to melt into the snow. Chill out, man, I caught a fox, not the throne. Mom and Dad are waiting at the gate, and the second they see me, Mom's whole body just relaxes. She wraps me up in a hug so warm, I almost lose my composure completely. Dad turns his head away and grits his teeth, pretending not to be affected. My sister spins around clapping, chanting that I'm home. Tiden just stands there wondering if he's supposed to cry too. Aunt hustles everyone inside to warm up by the fire. I'm soaked head to toe, coat, socks, shoes, everything. And honestly, my eyes are a little wet too. Not that I'll admit it. I change into dry clothes and burrow under the blankets, shivering hard. Turns out winter hunting is no joke, even with a broken system carrying me through it. Regular arrows go crooked in wind and damp within a few steps. If not for my perfect aim skill ignoring all that nonsense within 20 meters, I'd have come home empty-handed today. In the kitchen, everyone's losing their minds over the haul. My sister brags to anyone who'll listen that her brother's basically untouchable with a bow, hitting a fish's eye from the doorway, catching a fox. What's next, a tiger? My little brother just nods along, drooling with admiration. Dad stays quiet, proud, but clearly still worried. Having a skilled son is great. Having a son who keeps vanishing into the mountains all day is less great. Once I warm up, I head back to the kitchen and lay out the plan. Rabbit for dinner tonight, fried up nice with extra oil. Pheasant and field mouse can freeze outside for now, and the fox pelt goes to market tomorrow to trade for food, salt, and oil for a proper new year. Aunt lights up at the idea and gets cooking, though I can tell she's already planning her next lecture about me spending less time in the mountains. Dad takes the fox out back to skin it. Turns out he actually knows how, some leftover knowledge from hanging around hunters as a kid. I watch him work through it carefully. Meanwhile, my sister takes over cooking the fish soup, nervous about doing it solo for the first time. I pull Tide aside to redo my arrow fletching since the old feathers got ruined in the wet snow. The guy is fully committed but has zero idea what fish glue is, bless him. Genuinely relieved now that Aunt banned him from mountain trips, because this kid would not have survived 5 minutes out there. Then my little brother wanders over, quietly watching us work. I ask him if he's picking anything up, mostly joking, and he just nods, sits down, and fletches a perfect arrow on his first try. Tiedon's still struggling with his one arrow, and my 6-year-old brother just casually outperforms him. Turns out the kid's got a real knack for this. Definitely teaching him properly once it warms up. Out back, Dad finishes skinning the fox with practiced care, preserving the ears, nose, and tail intact, then treats the hide with ash and sand to strip the fat and keep it from spoiling. He holds it up, impressed. Red-tailed snow fox, he says. Don't see those often. Tiedon's already begging to come next time, dreaming about catching a blue-tailed fox to match my red-tailed one. I ignore him completely, until his archery actually gets good. Taking him into the mountains is basically feeding him to a bear with extra steps. My sister comes running out asking how spicy I want the rabbit. I say light on the chili, but honestly, rabbit without spice is a crime against food. Old habits from my past life die hard. Dad's got something on his mind, working up the courage to say it. Turns out there's an old village custom. After the first snow hunt, part of the catch goes to the village elders for good luck. I already remember this tradition, so I tell him to take the pheasant to town tomorrow and split it among the elders, with extra going to the village head. Dad agrees but still looks troubled, and I can guess why. Technically my grandparents count as elders, too, and Dad's torn between village tradition and the fact that they just threw us out into a blizzard without blinking. I decide to stay quiet and let him make that call himself. He ends up choosing not to send anything back to the old house. My catch isn't going anywhere near the people who try to freeze us out. Meanwhile, Tide and my little brother are practically worshipping the fox pelt, showering me with compliments nonstop. Dinner smells incredible. Rabbit sizzling with chili in the pan, my little brother sneezing from the spice smoke, but still climbing up on his toes just to watch, too short to see over the stove. I pick him up so he can watch Aunt work her magic, tossing rabbit chunks in hot oil with peppercorns popping and crackling everywhere. The rabbit turns golden, the smell fills the whole house, and honestly, it might be the best thing I've smelled since arriving in this world. Aunt goes all out with the oil too, more than we'd normally use even during New Year celebrations. We end up with a full spread, spicy rabbit, stir-fried radish and cabbage, pickles, and fish soup, plus rice that's been reheated because I came home so late. Tai-Dan sets the table fast, and Aunt raises a toast, using the fanciest phrase she knows to celebrate my big hunting win. Dad and Mom just glow with pride, relieved I made it back safe, and happy I'm staying out of the mountains tomorrow. We pass around the last of the rice wine. My sister gets tipsy off one sip, face bright red, fanning herself and complaining that both the rabbit and the wine are way too spicy. Dad actually laughs out loud, which almost never happens. I hand my siblings fish soup to cool their mouths down, and my little brother alternates bites of rabbit, soup, and rice like he's hit peak happiness. He can't figure out why life keeps getting better after getting kicked out of our old home. Eventually, just shrugs it off and keeps eating. As usual, the adults refuse to touch the meat until all four of us kids are stuffed. My sister and brother have picked up the family habit too, saving bits for Mom and Dad without needing to be told anymore. Mom insists she's not hungry, so we'll eat it all, but nobody actually listens to that anymore. Aunt and Mom split a bowl of soup. Dad gets some rabbit, and the rest gets saved for tomorrow. Lying in bed afterward, I start thinking bigger picture. Hunting keeps us fed, but if I actually want to change this family's fortunes long-term, I'll need to bring in real knowledge from my old life. Brewing, construction materials, better farming tools, better crops. Just hoping the barbarians and pirates stay busy elsewhere long enough for me to get everything set up. In the other room, Aunt gives Tai-Dan a talking to, telling him to follow my lead in everything except thievery. Tai-Dan just grins, going on about how incredible my archery is, better than any real hunter he's ever heard of. Aunt mutters to herself, wondering where exactly I learned all this, then shrugs it off, telling Tai-Dan the important thing is just to keep learning from me. Tai-Dan asks when his dad's coming home. Aunt counts on her fingers and says just a few more days. Tai-Dan and I walk 7 miles through snow to the market, both bundled up, baskets on our backs. He's buzzing with excitement just to have company. Money and prices don't matter to him, only that he gets to hang out with me. He asks if I've been to town before. I mention going with fourth uncle. Tai-Dan gets sad, wondering why nobody in the village invites him along to anything. I tell him he should be thankful fourth uncle never dragged him along. Hanging out with that guy is exactly how I ended up getting beaten half to death. Tai-Dan looks confused, connecting dots he's not quite sure he wants connected. We reach the market and it's packed. Hundreds of people, noise everywhere, candy stalls, the works. Tiedan's stomach growls loud enough to embarrass him. Before we left, Dad, Mom, and Aunt all secretly slipped me coins, Aunt giving me the most, along with instructions to buy supplies and keep an eye on Tai-Dan. We stop at a lamb stew stall. Tai-Dan panics at the price, 5 coins a bowl, basically a day's food back home, and tries to talk me down to just splitting a piece of bread. I slap the coins on the table anyway and order 2 bowls. The vendor throws in free flatbread once he sees I'm not backing down. The soup is incredible. Rich bone broth, chewy tripe, a kick of chili and green onion. Tai-Dan savors every bite like it's the finest meal of his life, insisting it beats even last night's spicy rabbit. I quietly agree the broth's worth every coin. Good seasoning is good seasoning. Doesn't matter what century you're in. Tai-Dan, ever the good soldier following his mom's orders to spoil me, tries pushing his organ meat over to my bowl. I wave it off, pretending I don't want it even though I secretly do. No need to take food from the guy who's already sacrificing his portion for me. We finish breakfast, and Tai-Dan insists on carrying both baskets so I don't have to. I tell him our next stop is the fur market. We weave through the crowded stalls and arrive at the fur market, tucked into the northwest corner. Pelts everywhere, a full raw cowhide hanging at the entrance, vendors shouting prices for raccoon, dog, and fox fur nonstop. I find an empty spot, lay out a cloth, and set out last night's haul. The rabbit pelt, the red-tailed fox fur, and the half-chewed field mouse skin the fox left behind. Fur traders swarm around my little stall, way more interested in my pelts than everyone else's. My red-tailed fox fur is basically the only one at the whole market. Nobody else has won this rare. They try to squeeze the source out of me. I stay quiet. They try Taidan instead, but even slow-brained Tiedon's smart enough to just grin and shrug and say, lucky day. Once they realize they can't get info out of us, most traders wander off, leaving just the serious buyers. Taidan whispers, asking how much we should sell for. Truth is, I have zero idea. Nobody in my family's ever sold fur before. But I've got a good poker face, so I just sit there calmly fiddling with my bow like I do this every day. Taidan relaxes too, quietly proud of how composed I seem. The offers start rolling in. Half a tael here, a bit more there, but nothing over 600 coins. Tiedon's practically vibrating, ready to grab the money and run. 600 coins would set our family up for a comfortable new year. But he holds himself back, sticking to the rule. Whatever I decide, goes. I watch the other vendors' faces, some smirking, some shaking their heads, a couple looking almost sorry for me. That's when it clicks. These guys are lowballing me hard. I refuse the offer flat out. The trader tries guilt-tripping me, pointing out the arrow damage on the pelt as an excuse for the low price. Then, generously, bumps it up a little. I don't budge. He asks what I actually want. I name my price, 2 taels. They act like I've lost my mind and storm off. Not because they're actually giving up, but because they're betting I'll panic once the market starts closing and sell cheap out of desperation. Taidan, surprisingly sharp for once, calls them out as scammers. Turns out he's got better people-reading instincts than I gave him credit for. Hours pass. Nobody in this small farming town has 2 taels of silver lying around for a fox pelt except a couple of wealthy households, and none of them show up. Taidan starts getting antsy, but I stay calm. I know exactly what this pelt is worth, and I'm not caving. Meanwhile, across town, a nervous man waits outside a fancy gate. Turns out it's my second uncle, groveling in front of the very scholar whose house I supposedly robbed. He begs forgiveness, swearing he kicked me out the second he found out, offering a rare official printed history book as a peace offering. The scholar's friend recognizes the book instantly and is genuinely impressed. It's an expensive, hard-to-find edition. Second uncle's groveling finally pays off, and the scholar decides to let bygones be bygones, even inviting him along to the market. Turns out second uncle sold my little cousin, his own daughter, into servitude at a wealthy household for 10 taels of silver, just so he could afford this ridiculously expensive book to repair his precious reputation. Second, uncle drags the scholar and his scholar friend around the market on his dime, buying meat buns and watching his money disappear while dreaming about the day he passes his exams and becomes just as important as they are. Meanwhile, his new friend, Scholar Chien, inhales 5 buns like he's never eaten before in his life, leaving second uncle internally screaming about the company he's forced to keep. Word spreads through the market about a rare red-tailed fox pelt for sale. Everyone's talking 2 taels of silver, way too expensive for most. The scholar gets curious and drags the group over to look. Second uncle spots me and Taidan at the stall and goes pale. He knows exactly what kind of trouble follows me around, and now I'm somehow standing between him and his freshly repaired reputation. The scholar recognizes me instantly and calls me a thief loud enough for the whole market to hear. His friend, not knowing the backstory, presses second uncle for details, and second uncle, trapped and sweating, has no choice but to explain the whole embarrassing story. The scholar's friend smells blood and decides to have some fun, announcing to the crowd that the fox pelt must be stolen too, since I supposedly can't walk, let alone hunt, 10 days after getting beaten half to death. He twists Tiedon's honest testimony against us. Taidan admits he only saw me coming down the mountain with the fox in my basket, not the actual moment of the kill, and spins that into proof that I stole it from some other hunter. Then he points out the arrow wounds in the pelt, arguing there's no way a 10-day-old thief could suddenly become an expert marksman. The crowd turns instantly. Villagers trust educated men over some kid with a shady reputation, and hunters especially don't tolerate poaching. Tiedon's practically shaking with rage, ready to throw hands. I grab his arm before he can move. Sit down. I stay calm, ask what he wants. He says he just wants justice for the poor robbed hunter. I tell him straight. I didn't steal anything. This fox is mine. I killed it myself. He tries threatening me with the authorities. I call his bluff instantly, telling him to go ahead. I've got nothing to hide. He backpedals but can't lose face in front of the scholar, so he demands I prove it. I smile. I pull out my bow, draw it full, and aim straight at his forehead. The crowd scatters in half a second. He's frozen solid, 3 feet from a kill shot, shaking like a leaf, stammering out something about what am I doing. I let go. The arrow screams past his head, punches straight through his hat, and buries itself in a tree at the edge of the market. Hat still pinned to the bark, swinging in the wind. Dead silence. Then someone yells, "Great shot," and the whole crowd erupts. A grizzled hunter mutters that an inch off, and this guy's head would have split like a melon. People start flipping instantly. Nobody thinks a thief pulled that off. That's marksman-level stuff. Second uncle just stands there frozen, speechless. Tiedon's puffed up with pride, bragging that he called it all along, hyping me up like I'm 1 arrow away from taking down a tiger. Then, because apparently 1 near-death experience wasn't enough, I draw a second arrow and aim at his head again. The guy completely loses it, screaming that he believes me, begging me to stop, voice cracking, sweat pouring. I release. Second arrow schemes past his skull and hits the exact same spot on the tree as the first one. Not an inch off. Perfectly stacked. Second uncle looks like he's seeing a stranger, some nephew he barely recognizes anymore, wielding archery skills good enough for the Imperial Guard. The scholar's practically shaking, already plotting an apology visit in his head, because getting shot from the shadows someday sounds like a very real possibility now. The scholar's friend, meanwhile, has fully soiled himself and collapsed on the spot. Case closed. Nobody doubts the fox pelt is mine anymore. Tied-in struts around like a proud rooster, soaking up the attention, already dreaming about learning archery himself. Then, because I like a flourish, I pull out a third arrow, aim at a sparrow pecking grain in the snow nearby, completely unaware of its impending doom. 1 shot, pinned clean through the wing into the snow. I send Tied-in to retrieve the arrows, the hat, and the still twitching sparrow. Then I hand the sparrow and the ruined hat back to the scholar's friend as an apology for the damage. A perfectly petty, perfectly satisfying finishing move. He bows deeply, completely humbled, takes his hat, leaves the sparrow behind, and walks off without another word to anyone. The scholar follows, already mentally listing which gifts he can bring to apologize: meat, eggs, salt, oil, anything to avoid becoming target practice later. Second uncle shuffles home in complete silence, looking like a man who just watched his whole worldview collapse. The crowd cheers me on as they disperse, proud that Wide Creek Village produced a marksman like this. Word's going to spread across the whole township by tomorrow. The archer who never misses. Tied-in begs me to teach him. I tell him tomorrow. He's thrilled. Business picks up fast after that. Someone buys the rabbit pelt, barely a scratch on it besides the leg wound, for a solid price. Some sketchy fur traders roll up, trying to swap a rare fox pelt for mine, hyping it up like it's the deal of a lifetime. It looks great, feels great, but something in my gut says nope. Sure enough, a well-dressed older man walks up, rubs the pelt for 2 seconds, and immediately calls it out as fake. Goose grease polished dog skin dyed to look like fox. The scammers scatter instantly. Turns out this guy's a household steward, and he actually takes the time to teach me how to spot fake fur. Check the roots, sniff for grease, burn test, rub test. I bow to him properly, genuinely grateful, which apparently impresses him even more since most kids these days don't have manners. His companion, an older housekeeper, is clearly here shopping for her young mistress and gets straight to business. How much for the real fox pelt? I open with 1 tail 8, giving him a discount for the free lesson. He tries the usual haggling, pointing out the arrow hole ruins the look. So I hit him with the sales pitch: pure white fur, fiery red tail, absolutely stunning on whoever wears it, practically glowing with elegance. The housekeeper's imagination runs wild, picturing her mistress in it, and she's sold instantly, cutting off any further negotiation. The steward just laughs, impressed I talk circles around his decades of haggling experience. I wish them a happy new year, hoping they get candy every single day, which cracks him up more than any of the fancier blessings people usually give. 1 tail 8 in hand, 1,800 coins, enough for 360 pounds of rice. My family's winter just got a whole lot easier. Even the leftover mouse pelt, half-chewed and useless looking, sells for 2 coins to a nearby trader. Total for the morning, 1,922 coins. We pack up and head out with empty baskets, catching plenty of envious looks from vendors who probably don't make that much in 2 months. Nobody tries anything funny though, not with a bow and loaded arrow slung casually over my shoulder. I tell Tiden he can get whatever he wants now that we've got money to spare. I can practically see him thinking about that lamb stew again, mouth-watering. Then he catches himself and shakes his head hard. I'm not hungry, Changle brother. I tell Tiden straight up. He's not hungry, but I sure am. We find a food stall at the market packed with people enjoying a rare good harvest year. Tiedon's stomach betrays him with a loud growl the second we sit down, embarrassing him in front of the vendor's daughter. Even after swearing up and down, he wasn't hungry. I order way more than we could ever eat. Pork broth noodles loaded with lard bits, pickled veggie buns, red bean rice balls. The vendor questions if we ordered too much. I tell him whatever we don't finish, we'll take home. Money's not a problem anymore. Tiden bursts into tears halfway through eating, completely overwhelmed. Nobody besides his mom has ever treated him this well before. No real friends, an absent father working far away, and now suddenly someone's constantly looking out for him, sharing everything, treating him like family. I brush it off with a joke to keep things light, and he wipes his face fast, embarrassed, determined not to cry again, and instead focus on carrying stuff for me. We demolish everything on the table. The broth's rich, the cabbage crunches perfectly, the rice balls are sweet and soft. Better food than either of us has had in ages. I order a huge extra batch to bring home for the family, and the vendor compliments how thoughtful I am. We pay up, wish them a happy new year, and head off. Next stop, the rice shop. I casually ask for 100 pounds of rice, and the shopkeeper does a double take, clearly assuming a ragged-looking kid can't possibly afford that. I slap the silver down without a word. He nearly falls over. Tiden hauls the whole bag without breaking a sweat, buzzing with energy from actually eating a full meal for once, ready to carry anything I throw at him. I add millet and flour to the pile too, proper grains instead of the rough stuff we've been living on. Tiden somehow carries the whole load without even a bead of sweat. Last stop, salt. Turns out private salt trading's heavily restricted here. Big purchases have to go through the official salt office with registration required. I ask for fine salt, more than usual, and the clerk asks me to register my name. Wang Changle, Wide Creek Village, 13 years old. The salt shop owner keeps giving me weird lingering looks after I pay, and I get an uncomfortable feeling I might be looking at future in-law material for his 12-year-old daughter, whether I want it or not. I grab Tiden and bail out of there fast. Next stop, the oil shop, and the prices make my wallet weep, sesame oil especially. We settle for cheaper vegetable oil, planning to grab pork fat later when the village does its next pig slaughter, way cheaper than buying it in town. We also pick up pork meat, and by now Tiedon's basket is packed to the brim while mine's still empty, since I'm saving room for fabric to make new clothes for my siblings. My little sister hasn't had new clothes in years, and my little brothers literally never owned a single piece of clothing that wasn't a hand-me-down from past me. I count what's left, still enough for a proper weapons upgrade. I leave Tiden resting with the supplies and head to the only blacksmith in town. The blacksmith, a lean, sharp-eyed man named Zheng Lang, already knows why I'm there. Before I say a word, turns out he saw me shoot earlier and immediately clocked that my form's decent, but my bow's too weak for my draw strength. He hands me a proper bamboo wood bow, way sturdier than my current one, along with 6 barbed arrows and a solid hunting knife, all for exactly what I've got left. Then he stops me before I leave and tells me my shooting stance is wrong. Genuinely useful, since my system's basically useless when it comes to actual coaching. It just hands me passive skills and calls it a day. He walks me through proper footing, grip, breathing, back muscle draw technique, real archery fundamentals instead of just relying on broken system magic. I try it out, and the arrow flies clean into a small iron ring on his workshop wall, dead center, first attempt. His expression shifts. He clearly wasn't expecting that level of natural talent. I awkwardly rub my nose, half embarrassed, since perfect aim doesn't exactly let me miss on purpose, so I basically flexed on the guy by accident. He goes quiet after that, tells me to head off, and gets back to his forge like nothing happened. Something about his reaction feels a little off, like he's turning something over in his head, but I don't push it. Tiedon's overjoyed when I hand him my old mulberry wood bow, promising to teach him properly once we're home. The walk back to the village feels different this time. Full baskets, full pockets, and a real sense that things are finally turning around. Watching the whole day play out really drives something home. A single fox pelt, worth almost nothing to villagers who'll never see that kind of money, was enough to buy our whole family a comfortable winter. That's the wall separating rich from poor in this world. Thin as fur, but nearly impossible to climb without something like it. The sun's setting as we walk back into the village, golden lights spilling over the rooftops, and honestly, it feels better than anything the town market had to offer. Tiden shouts for his mom the second we're through the gate, loud enough to startle every chicken in earshot. Mom and Aunt drop what they're doing and rush out, my siblings right behind them. The second Tiden starts unloading the baskets, both women go completely speechless. It looks like we robbed the entire rice shop. Mom's giving me that suspicious look again. Honestly, fair, since a pile of rice this big would make anyone assume their son robbed a granary. Pork, fine salt, a whole jar of vegetable oil. My little brother literally dips his finger in the oil jar just to taste it, completely hypnotized. I explain the fox pelt sold for one tael 8, all bought fair and square. Aunt nearly falls over hearing the price. Tiden, meanwhile, has fully transformed into my personal hype man, retelling every single detail of the day. The arrow standoff, the lamb stew, the fake fur scam, all of it. With way too much enthusiasm, practically drooling himself while doing it. I have to cut him off before he narrates the entire market trip a second time. Mom worries I'm spending too recklessly, since hunting is dangerous enough without blowing all the profits on food. I brush it off, insisting it's normal market food, and I wanted them to have some. Aunt refuses to let me take over cooking though, practically offended at the idea of being served instead of serving. I remind her we're one family now, no need to keep score between houses. That gets her fighting back tears. I head into the kitchen to cook myself, chopping fresh pork for a proper family meal. Pork with cabbage and mushrooms, one of my best dishes. My sister watches in awe as I slice the meat into perfect thin strips, eager to help however she can. I keep her away from the root vegetables though, no interest in her cutting herself in this cold with no real way to treat an infection out here. The kitchen fills with incredible smells as everything comes together. My little brother just stares at me, clearly recalculating everything he thought he knew about his once useless older brother. Now apparently a hunter, a cook, an archer, and a fisherman all rolled into one. Dad comes home and stops dead at the sight of the full rice jar. Half a lifetime spent farming, and he's never seen this much rice outside of an actual harvest. His eyes well up on the spot. Something's clearly bothering him. Underneath the joy, though, probably from another run-in involving the elders and the pheasant meat tradition, but I steer everyone straight to dinner instead of pressing him on it. Everyone sits down together. Aunt takes one bite of the cabbage mushroom pork dish and is instantly a believer. She's never tasted cabbage this good in her life. Tiden practically ascends to a higher plane of existence over it, completely rethinking his entire relationship with vegetables. As usual, the adults try sticking to just cabbage and pickled greens, avoiding the meat and mushrooms entirely, saving it all for us kids. I don't let that slide. Hand them each a rice ball and stare them down until they actually eat. My little sister, trained since birth to always let the boys eat first, hesitates over a second rice ball even after finishing one. Old survival instincts dying hard. It takes both parents nodding before she finally lets herself have it, savoring every single bite like it's the best thing she's ever tasted. I look at my little sister eating her rice ball, and something in my chest tightens. Old habits like that don't fix themselves with a few good meals. The only real cure is making sure this family never runs out of food again, so she can eat as many rice balls as she wants without asking permission first. I decide right there. I'm going to work this system hard until my sister's cheeks are as red and full as those rice balls. I'm too full from lunch to eat much dinner, so I reheat yesterday's spicy rabbit and head outside to practice archery instead. My strength keeps creeping up bit by bit. And with the new bamboo bow, way stronger pull than my old one, my range jumps to over 30 meters, with decent accuracy even past my guaranteed 20. I'm having way too much fun with this. Dad watches me from the doorway, quietly proud, looking at me like I've turned into someone he barely recognizes. someone stronger than he ever was. Once I'm out of arrows, I notice him standing there and ask why he's not eating. Turns out he skipped visiting the old house today when he handed out the pheasant meat, and it's eating at him. He explains everything. Since we got kicked out, life back home's fallen apart. Fourth uncle still does nothing all day. Second uncle's too busy studying to work. The women can't manage much on their own. That leaves Big Uncle and his two sons carrying the entire 11-person household. And now Big Uncle's sons are old enough to marry, which means money's needed for that too. And Grandpa and Grandma keep stalling everything until Second Uncle passes his exams. Turns out Second Uncle sold his own daughter into servitude for 10 silver taels just to buy that book, and then kept every coin for himself instead of helping the family. The whole household exploded when they found out. And today, when Dad handed out pheasant meat to the neighbors but skipped the old house entirely, Second Uncle's wife took it as some kind of insult and got everyone riled up, with Grandpa and Grandma taking their frustration out on Dad. Dad's not upset about being yelled at. He's used to that. He's worried the whole family's about to implode. I remind him plainly, they didn't give us a single scrap of land when they kicked us out, not even the 3 pounds of rice that was rightfully ours. Next spring, Dad's on his own to clear new farmland. And Mom's completely done with that side of the family. He can't let guilt pull him back in. Dad goes quiet, then nods slowly, accepting it. Privately, though, I'm already planning a middle ground approach. Big Aunt sent eggs and coins when we had nothing. That debt matters, and I'll repay it eventually. Second Aunt's household gets nothing from me. Not now, not ever. Fourth Uncle doesn't even register on my radar. Grandpa and Grandma would starve themselves before letting him miss a meal. Meanwhile, back at the old house, Second Uncle comes home completely deflated. Grandma and Grandpa rush to feed him, confused by how different he seems. Gone is the proud, superior scholar who looks down on farmers, replaced by someone mud-splattered and hollow-eyed. Second Aunt, still ranting about the thief nephew, who apparently didn't even bother sending them meat today, gets snapped at by Second Uncle for the first time ever. Then he tells them everything. The 3 arrows, the market crowd, all of it. The family sits in stunned silence. But Second Aunt's mind jumps straight to money, practically salivating over the 2-tael price tag on the fox pelt. Relief floods the room when Second Uncle mentions nobody actually bought it, until Second Aunt slams the table, furious, blaming me for ruining her husband's reputation-building scheme and threatening to march over and confront me herself. Big Aunt, ever the voice of reason, points out it was Scholar Chien who started the whole thing. None of this was my doing at all. Grandma sneers that I've been useless my whole life, catching foxes and rabbits without sending a scrap back home. Grandpa backs her up, ordering Second Aunt to march over and take the fox pelt for the family to sell. Second Aunt storms into Aunt's house ready to scream at me, but freezes the second she sees the table. Pork, cabbage, mushrooms, rabbit, buns, rice balls. Even the richest family in the village doesn't eat like this. Her jaw hits the floor. My little sister, the girl's Second Aunt used to sneer at constantly, is sitting there eating rice balls with both hands, meat grease all over her face. Second Aunt starts screaming that we've been stuffing our faces while the old house survives on plain porridge, demanding to know where we stole all this food from. My sister drops her rice ball in fear. Mom cuts her off cold, reminding her we left that house with literally nothing. Mom starts piling meat into my siblings' bowls on purpose, putting on a show, scolding my sister for only eating vegetables, and telling her to eat more meat. My sister, sharp as ever, plays along instantly, announcing she'll only eat meat from now on. Mom beams. Second Aunt is furious, but her stomach betrays her, and she ends up eating anyway, grabbing Aunt's bowl to dig in before getting to business. I make sure she doesn't get a single bite more. Tied and I quietly dump the rest of the food straight into my siblings' bowls and clear the table before she can touch anything else. Once she's done stuffing herself, she announces the new rule. Half of everything I hunt from now on belongs to the old house, starting with the fox pelt, which she demands immediately, claiming I ruined Second Uncle's reputation and owe compensation. Mom slams the table and tells her to get out. Second Aunt can't believe it. Nobody's ever spoken to her like that. Mom, teary-eyed and furious, makes it clear, whatever insults or scraps they want to throw at her and Dad, fine, she'll take it. But nobody touches what belongs to me. Not one hair off that pelt. Dad backs her up completely, telling second aunt the fur isn't up for discussion. I chime in, reminding her Esichi was the one who demanded the family split in the first place. Can't have it both ways. Furious and outnumbered, second aunt storms off, threatening to bring Grandpa and Grandma themselves. Sure enough, they show up not long after, hobbling in on canes that apparently don't slow them down one bit when there's free stuff on the line. I stay calm, send Dad to fetch the village head, and have Tied-In round up the neighbors as witnesses. When Grandpa and Grandma start demanding the pelt, I pull out the official family split document and ask the village head to confirm. Doesn't it say both households are done? No ties, no obligations. He confirms it on the spot and tells them to go home. They keep pushing anyway, until I turn to the gathered crowd and ask if they think the old house deserves anything from us. The neighbors immediately side with us, telling Grandpa and Grandma to stop embarrassing themselves. Then, since apparently they insist on taking something home, I go inside and grab a very generous gift and hand it over with a straight face, announcing loudly for everyone to hear that despite everything, we're still kind enough to share fox meat with them. The smell hits before anyone even opens the package. Turns out I gave them the absolute worst, most rank part of a fox, treated with rotten fish guts for extra punishment. Technically meat, technically fair, completely inedible. The crowd, fully on our side by now, insists they take it home rather than waste it since they demanded it themselves. Grandma and Grandpa, humiliated and gagging, have no choice but to shuffle off with second aunt nearly passing out from the smell while carrying it. Back inside, I explain the trick to the family. Fox meat, especially certain parts, is notoriously foul and nearly impossible to cook away, and I made sure to enhance it further just for them. The whole family cracks up. Even Aunt, torn about her own parents' behavior, can't defend them after tonight. Turns out watching your family try to bully a 13-year-old out of his hard-earned fox pelt puts things in pretty clear perspective. Mom asks Dad quietly if something's bothering him. He sighs. Filial duty runs deep in him, even toward parents who tossed us out in the snow. He won't ask me for anything, refusing to use food I worked for to honor people who wouldn't lift a finger for us. Mom, softer-hearted, suggests sending some grain to Big Uncle and his wife, since she was the one who slipped us coins on the worst night of our lives. I'm half asleep, but chime in anyway. Remind them we need every grain for winter, and anything given will just get eyed by grandparents anyway. Later, maybe. Dad agrees, letting it go. Next morning, breakfast is another feast by village standards. Thick rice porridge, leftover buns, cabbage mushroom soup. My little brother complains Mom didn't add enough water to the rice, which cracks everyone up since the real problem is there's just too much rice now. Dad heads out to work on Aunt's overgrown backyard plot, prepping tools for spring planting since nobody's had time to tend it. Mom helps Aunt pickle vegetables and sews my sister a new coat from spare fabric. My sister's thrilled, running around the yard in it, begging to come along to the stream. Mom actually says yes for once, and my sister washes her face extra clean before happily carrying my gear basket herself. Aunt gives Tied-In a heartfelt pep talk before we leave, hoping he picks up even half my archery skills someday, so he can support a family of his own. Tied-In flexes his bow confidently, bragging that I told him he has talent. At the stream, the old ice hole's frozen back over, so we find a fresh spot with more air bubbles. Tied-In and I take turns chiseling, faster this time with practice, and break through in under half an hour. I toss and bait my sister prepared last night. Leftover rice mixed with chicken blood, and dark shapes start gathering almost immediately. I have Tied-In tie a rope tight to a chicken feather arrow, since the fancier barbed arrows can't handle water damage. I demonstrate the shooting form one more time for both of them. Stance, breathing, aim, then fire. The arrow disappears into the water with a solid crack, and my system pings hard. Way more points than usual. Something big just got hit. Tied-In hauls on the rope, struggling, and drags out an enormous black shape that flies up and slams onto the ice. My sister's eyes go wide. She's never seen a fish this massive in her life, completely convinced her brother's the greatest fisherman in the whole region. The fish thrashes hard enough to fling the arrow loose and nearly escapes back into the hole, but I finish it off with a second shot straight through the head. Tied-In hauls it in. A genuine 10-pound fish, something you'd expect from the ocean, not some tiny village creek. Turns out it's a black carp, a species that normally only lives in big rivers, which raises some seriously strange questions about how it ended up here. A fish this size showing up in a stream this small could even be seen as some kind of omen worth reporting to local officials, which is exactly the kind of attention I do not want. I tell both of them clearly, nobody hears about this fish. Not a word. The last thing we need is the whole village descending on our stream, hoping for the same luck. Then I toss in more bait and let Tiden take his turn. He draws, breathes, aims just like I taught him. Now, shoot. Tiedon's arrow misses. Then misses again. 5, 6 times in a row, no luck. I start wondering if it's my teaching, his skills, or if my own aim is just too broken to compare against. But he never gets discouraged, cheerfully hauling back each missed arrow and trying again, even stopping to comfort me instead of the other way around. He keeps shooting, 10 arrows, 20, 30, completely undeterred. In the distance, a familiar figure watches nervously, working up the courage to approach. It's Fourth Uncle. He tosses a bag of candy toward my sister and bolts before she can even see his face clearly. She picks it up thrilled, wondering who left it for her. I frown a little, trying to figure out what's going on in that guy's head. First meat and medicine, now candy. Guilt, maybe, or gratitude that I never ratted him out. Hard to say. Then Tiden finally lands one. A small crucian carp, nothing compared to my catch, but he's thrilled anyway, already dreaming about one day landing something as big as mine. I offer to let my sister try. She hesitates, worried it's not something girls are supposed to do, but I encourage her anyway. She misses the fish entirely and ends up shredding Tiedon's earlier catch into pieces instead, laughing harder than I've ever heard her laugh. It might be the first time she's ever laughed freely, without holding back. By midday, everyone's tired out, but we've got a solid haul, 7 or 8 fish, enough to keep the family fed for a while. I carry my sister home on my back. She rests her head on my shoulder and cries quietly the whole way, and something in my chest just fills up watching it. Tiden trails behind with the basket, laughing and struggling to keep up. Back home, Mom notices my sister's red eyes but doesn't ask, just pulls her into a hug. In the kitchen, Tiden excitedly recaps the whole morning, oblivious to the quieter moment happening on the other side of the wall. Aunt just watches Tiedon's genuine joy and feels complete, more moved by his smile than by any amount of fish. Overhearing everything through the kitchen wall, Mom finally understands just how much I've changed. Feeding, teaching, protecting my siblings, all without being asked. Dad, meanwhile, refuses to rest even in winter, out sharpening old farm tools that haven't been touched in years, mumbling old farming sayings about preparing early. I offer to help. He insists I go help Mom cook instead. Lunch is field mouse meat, courtesy of the one the fox tried to steal earlier. Aunt cooks it into porridge, bones and all, claiming it makes the broth richer. I can't quite bring myself to enjoy it. My little brother refuses to touch it entirely, convinced by old superstition that eating mouse meat turns you into one in your next life. I reassure him it's a totally different animal, and he should eat up to grow big and strong. Everyone eats their fill and settles in for a nap. Tiden spends the afternoon practicing archery on his own. Cleaning the giant carp takes forever. 10 pounds of fish, my sister can barely lift it, and the scales alone take 15 minutes to scrape off. We save half and cook the other half into a massive pot of fish soup, and I sneak in extra oil despite Aunt's protests. That night the whole family eats until we're stuffed, rice and fish soup without limit. My little brother eating himself into a daze, my sister already making her New Year's wish out loud. Just to keep eating like this forever. Mom locks the gate tight this time. No chance of second aunt sneaking in for another free meal. That night, everyone sleeps peacefully, Mom cradling my siblings, smiling in her sleep for once. Dad quietly plans to help Big Uncle's family before things get too rough for them, worried our grandparents will run them ragged. In the other room, Tiden asks if his dad's coming home soon. Aunt promises he'll be back for the little new year like always, bringing sesame cakes and treats. Morning arrives, and the whole family dives into cleaning. Kitchen first, then bedrooms, then the yard, following the old village order. I swap out the kitchen god's paper image for a new one Aunt picked up from the neighbor. My sister scrubs the stove spotless. My brother helps by wringing out rags and fetching water. Mom and Dad scrubbed the walls and floors, a little embarrassed at how much dirtier the house had gotten since we moved in, though Aunt never once complained about it. Even our sparse little room gets rearranged for good luck, and I spread lime powder around the corners to keep mice away. Aunt brings over a stack of new ceramic jars, refusing to take no for an answer. Cleaning isn't the only little New Year tradition. The real event is heading to the village head's house for the annual porridge distribution, a custom that's survived here for centuries even as other traditions fade. The whole family washes up and heads out together, Tied Ann and my sister carrying our 7 bowls. The crowd's massive, easily half the village crammed into the square. This year, instead of hanging back in the last row like always, our family of 7 pushes right up to the front. Across the way, my grandparents and second aunt spot us and glare. I pretend not to notice. The elders take turns tossing grains into the ceremonial pot. Rice, millet, beans, dates, chestnuts, walnuts, the whole works, while everyone waits for their blessing and their bowl. When it's our turn, Mom steps forward and proudly pays for all 7 of us, tossing in extra coins on top, just to make a statement, loud enough for everyone to hear that our family's doing just fine without the old house's help. The crowd erupts into whispers, stunned that we could afford so much after being kicked out with nothing. The village head thanks her warmly, clearly touched by the gesture. That's when second aunt, unable to help herself, sneers loudly across the crowd, warning the village head to be careful about handing out blessings to certain kinds of people. Mom snaps at second aunt, demanding to know what she means by that. Second aunt doesn't back down, screaming that a thief doesn't deserve porridge and warning the village head to watch his pockets with so many people gathered. Mom fires back hard, bringing up the daughter second aunt sold, calling her out for taking her anger out on everyone else instead of dealing with her own choices. That lands like a bomb, the whole family's dirty secret, said out loud in front of the entire village. Second aunt, humiliated, doubles down instead of backing off, screaming that letting me take porridge will curse the whole village's harvest next year. That actually works on people. 300 villagers whose entire lives depend on next year's crops start murmuring nervously, some even suggesting Mom just skip it this year to avoid bad luck. Mom refuses to budge. Fourth uncle shrinks behind Grandma, shaking, clearly terrified I'm about to expose the truth about who actually robbed the scholar's house. Then the village head steps in and reminds everyone that I personally hunted a pheasant and shared it with the elders following the old post-snow hunting tradition. Hardly the behavior of someone bringing bad luck. The other elders back him up instantly, praising me as a good kid who remembers tradition. The whole crowd flips instantly, showering praise on our family, openly siding against second aunt. Second aunt's face goes purple with humiliation. Second uncle hides behind his book. Grandpa looks embarrassed. Grandma glares daggers at her daughter-in-law for causing this mess. Watching everyone praise our family while quietly judging the old house for selling a daughter for money completely breaks something in second aunt. She lunges toward me, demanding I stand still, screaming that I owe the family for ruining second uncle's reputation and that her daughter's sale is somehow my fault. Dad steps in, calm but firm, pointing out we left with nothing, no land, no money, nothing, and that debt's already been paid 100 times over. Second aunt loses it completely, shrieking that it's still not enough, that I owe more. Mom pulls my siblings close and steps in front of me, genuinely worried second aunt might do something reckless. The village head, caught in the middle, doesn't know how to de-escalate a public meltdown over a scholar's bruised ego. I glance at fourth uncle, crouched on the ground with his head in his hands. If things get worse, he's about to become collateral damage in second aunt's rage. Then a voice cuts through the chaos. Is Wang Changle here? Is Wang Changle here? Second uncle flinches, dropping his book in shock. He knows that voice better than anyone. It's the scholar. It's Zhao. Second uncle lights up, sure the scholar's finally come to punish me. Grandpa and Grandma look mortified. Mom steps in front of me, ready to fight anyone who tries to touch me. Dad picks up a rock. Fourth uncle keeps his head down, terrified his name might come up. I tell my parents I can handle myself. Something feels off. The scholar doesn't look angry. Second uncle tries sucking up to him immediately, apologizing on my behalf and awkwardly pivoting into asking scholarly questions about the book he gave him. The scholar shoves him aside without even acknowledging it. He refuses porridge and walks straight past my parents, locking eyes with me. My sister grabs my hand, ready to cling to his leg if he tries anything. Mom shouts a warning. Dad's got his rock ready. The village men start closing in around the scholars group protectively. Second aunt, delighted at the chaos, gleefully predicts I'm about to get my legs broken. The scholar panics, hands up, insisting there's been a huge misunderstanding. Then he bows, deep, formal, to me. The whole crowd goes dead silent. The richest, proudest man in the township, bowing to a farm kid. He apologizes. Turns out his household staff attacked the wrong person that night, and he wants to make it right. His men unload baskets of meat, fish, rice, salt, oil, even fabric, all as compensation. Then the real bombshell. He clarifies I was never actually inside his house that night. I was only standing outside. The crowd erupts, completely reevaluating what actually happened, with my parents suddenly connecting the dots to what I said the day I woke up. I stay quiet for a second, honestly a little thrown myself, until it clicks that this is clearly about the market showdown, not genuine detective work on his part. Nothing scares a scholar straight like nearly losing an eye to a trick shot. I bow back politely, and, glancing over at fourth uncle crouched on the ground looking utterly wrecked with guilt, decide not to expose him. I tell the scholar plainly that I truly wasn't the one who broke in, and I don't need the gifts. But if he really wants to make amends, he could lower the tenant rents for the villagers this year instead. The whole crowd goes quiet at that. The scholar, visibly caught off guard by how composed and reasonable I sound, agrees immediately. Rent reduction, apology gifts, and on top of it, pulls out 10 taels of pure silver as compensation. The villagers can barely breathe looking at that much silver in broad daylight. Whispers ripple through the crowd. Wang Changle really did land on his feet this time, and Dad's suddenly the luckiest father in the village for having a son like this. We push back on the silver, grain, oil, and meat we'll take, but silver crosses a line into looking greedy. Zhao leaves with his men, never once acknowledging second uncle, who stands there frozen, mind spiraling around two thoughts. His daughter, sold for nothing, and that expensive book, wasted for nothing. He can't figure out why Zhao suddenly changed his tune, so he does what any scholar does when confused, buries his face back in a book, convinced the answer lies somewhere in there. Second aunt, no longer having Zhao as an excuse to scream at anyone, finally breaks down crying over the daughter she sold, though I couldn't care less at this point. Back home, we've got an entire bed covered in meat, fish, rice, salt, oil, and fabric. My little brother's drooling nonstop. My sister keeps stealing glances at the cloth while hiding her broken shoes with the exposed toe. Tiedon's practically worshipping me at this point, bragging that no scholar has ever bowed to a farmer's kid in the history of this village. Dad tries to ask if I threatened Zhao somehow. I laugh it off, telling him I did nothing of the sort, and Tiedon backs me up immediately, listing off how polite I've been to every vendor and stranger we've met. I split the gifts. Half the meat and cloth stays with us. The other half goes to Aunt and Tiedon, since they're the ones who took us in when nobody else would. Aunt tries to refuse, overwhelmed, but I shut that down fast. We're one family, no separate accounting between houses. She breaks down crying, pulling me into a hug, Tiedon following right behind with an equally enthusiastic, equally slobbery hug of his own. Lunch is pork and cabbage, a full feast, with everyone stuffed by the end. In the afternoon, Mom and Aunt stay home sewing new clothes for the kids while Dad takes me, Tiedon, and my little brother to help with the village's pig slaughter, a small revenge story. On its own, since for years Dad was the only one from our extended family who ever showed up to help, getting barely half a portion of blood in return while doing all the actual work. This year it's different. 4 of us show up representing our family, and Dad's quietly hoping we'll finally get our fair share. The slaughter itself is loud, messy, and honestly kind of intense. A 250-pound pig fighting 5 grown men just to stay still, blood collected in a basin with salt to keep it from clotting too fast, everyone shouting, smooth sailing. For good luck, the second the cut lands clean. My little brother's mesmerized, half terrified, half fascinated. I keep him and myself out of the actual butchering, letting Dad and Tiedon handle the muscle work. Village women start showing up to buy fresh cuts, pork belly, blood, lard, whatever they can afford for the new year. One eccentric old bachelor named Old Wu buys raw pork fat straight off the carcass and eats it uncooked, dipped in soy sauce, washing it down with liquor like it's the finest delicacy in the empire. I politely decline his offer to share. Then Grandma, Big Aunt, and Second Aunt show up to buy their share. I greet Big Aunt warmly. Grandma just glares. Second Aunt's still stewing from this morning's humiliation, and the other village women pointedly avoid her. When it's their turn to buy meat, I, helpfully, suggest Grandma buy at least 10 pounds now that there's 5 fewer mouths to feed. Second Aunt scoffs, telling Grandma to just get 4 or 5 pounds instead. Grandma, clearly strapped for cash this year, only has enough for 2 pounds, using the excuse that Second Uncle needs to stay sharp for his studies and shouldn't eat too much meat. I twist the knife politely, wishing Grandma well, and reminding her to keep Second Uncle's meat portions light for his studies. She stumbles. Second Aunt glares daggers at me, snapping that if I've got so much to say, I should buy meat myself then. So I do. I hand my little brother a bag of coins and tell him to buy 5 pounds. The whole crowd falls dead silent as he counts out 85 coins on the table, buying more meat in one purchase than most families see all winter. Whispers spread instantly. Word's already out that Zhao refused to give us silver this morning. So where exactly is all this money coming from? Turns out the answer is simple. My hunting skills, quietly turning this family's fortunes completely around, 1 kill at a time. I split the meat, sending 1 pound to Big Aunt for her sons despite her protests, and Grandma and Second Aunt just watch fuming, getting nothing. Back at the slaughter, I buy more intestines, lard, spending money like it's nothing, leaving the whole crowd speechless, wondering exactly what I've been hunting to afford all this. Dad and Taidan finish helping with the 3rd pig and finally get their fair share of blood and ribs, Dad grinning the whole walk home. Kidon's buzzing, planning tonight's dinner, and excited as Dad's coming home with sesame cakes and treats like always. But when we get home, something's wrong. Instead of a happy reunion, I hear crying. Aunt's collapsed in tears. Word just came in that a landslide buried the mountain road in the next township over, trapping a bunch of travelers, and Tiedon's dad might be among them. Taidan completely breaks, screaming that he's going to save his father, sprinting for the door. I grab him before he can bolt off blind with no plan. Once he calms slightly, I tell him we're absolutely going, but going in prepared, not running off into a blizzard with nothing. Mom and my sister scrambled to pack supplies, cured meat, candy, dried fish, water skins, warm clothes. Aunt hands me all the money she's got, 300 coins, begging me to bring him home. I promise to try my best. Dad insists on coming too, refusing to let just the 2 of us head out alone into danger. Mom's relieved at least Dad's going along to watch over us. We push through the freezing night, wind cutting into our faces, heading toward the neighboring township. I offer Taidan food along the way, but he refuses, too anxious to eat. I don't let that slide. Force him to eat something, reminding him he needs strength to actually save his dad, not just good intentions. By the time we arrive, it's the middle of the night, chaos everywhere. Lanterns, torches, villagers frantically digging through the snow, some people already pulled out alive, others not so lucky, wailing filling the air. The scale of it hits Taidan hard. No idea where to even start digging. I ask Dad which direction leads to town, and figure out where the traffic would have been heaviest, guiding us to the busier road. We dig for hours straight, pulling bodies out one after another, most already gone. Then finally, we break through to a pocket beneath a large rock. 2 people wrapped in fox furs, one with a telltale blood-red tail. I freeze. That's Steward Joe's fox fur, the one I sold at the market. Meaning the 2 people buried here are Steward Joe and the housekeeper who bought it from me. The housekeeper's barely breathing. Steward Joe's still warm. I get water and shredded meat into him fast, and he jolts awake, eyes wide with panic, screaming one word. My young mistress. A gang of 40 bandits waits up on the mountainside, watching the diggers below, plotting to storm down once the road clears and slaughter, rob, and burn their way through the whole crowd once everyone's exhausted from digging. Their leader, a scarred brute named Hua, whips his men into a frenzy, promising food, gold, and women once the road opens. Down below, none of us have any idea. Steward Joe finally wakes up, screaming for his young mistress. Turns out he's part of a wealthy household from a neighboring town, and their carriage got separated during the landslide. The 14-year-old daughter of the family is missing somewhere out there. He begs me for help, offering fur, land, money, anything. I turn him down flat. My focus is on finding Tiedon's dad, not chasing rewards. We keep digging, arms burning, until we finally break through into a pocket of fallen trees, sheltering 70 or 80 people huddled together for warmth. Tide dives in head first, flipping people over one by one, screaming for his father. Then he finds him. His dad's arm is crushed under a boulder, bone visible through the blood. Tide completely breaks down, ripping off his own coat to cover him despite the freezing cold. The three of us work together to move the rock off, and I force water and food into him to keep him conscious. Tide straps his dad onto his back, and I stuff both their mouths with candy for warmth before sending them running ahead toward home, telling Tide to keep talking to his dad the whole way to keep him awake. Right before he leaves, his dad mumbles something about a bag with money in it. Dad understands immediately. A year of hard labor, all riding on those coins. I tell Tide to go ahead without us while Dad and I search the snow for the bag. Around us, dozens of people are still trapped, freezing, moaning in pain. I can't save everyone tonight. All I can do is focus on the one person I came here for. Somewhere above us on the mountain, 40 armed men are quietly waiting for their moment to strike, and none of us down here have any idea what's coming. Dad finds Tiedon's father's bag tucked in a rock crevice. Sesame cakes, cured pork, fried treats. Exactly what he always brings home. We give away food to the dying strangers around us, sharing what little we have, knowing full well most of them won't make it. I tell Dad the choice isn't ours to make anymore. We've done what we can. Then screams erupt from every direction. Bandits. My blood runs cold. Tiedon's alone out there with his dad strapped to his back, completely defenseless, all our weapons still with us. I sprint toward the noise, bow already drawn. We spot them, Tide running with his dad on his back, Steward Joe beside him, and 3 armed bandits chasing them down. Before I can even process it, they catch up. Tide and his dad go down hard, and one of the bandits slashes clean through his dad's leg. Tide screams. The bandits close in, grinning like predators, one of them grinding his boot into his dad's shattered leg just to hear him scream. Another pins Tide down, blade at his throat, promising to make him watch his own father bleed out. The blade comes down. My arrow gets there first, straight through the throat of the biggest one before he even sees it coming. The second bandit spins around panicked. No idea where the shot came from. I put a second arrow through his heart before he can react. The last one panics and grabs Tiedon's dad as a human shield, screaming for me to show myself. He should have watched Tide instead. Tide explodes forward with pure rage, tackling him barehanded. My third arrow gets deflected at the last second, but it's already changed direction just enough to nick his throat, and that's all the opening Tide needs. He rips the arrow the rest of the way through with his bare hands, screaming, completely consumed by fury until the man stops moving. I pull him off the body once it's over. My hands are steadier than I expect. First kill of this life, and somehow there's no guilt in me at all. Men who slaughter fleeing villagers during a disaster don't get sympathy from me. I wrap Tiedon's dad's leg tight enough to slow the bleeding and get everyone moving. Tide, carry your dad. We're leaving. Now, Tide strips a bandit's coat and wraps it around his father, binding the shattered leg tight before hauling him onto his back again. Dad refuses to walk behind us, insisting on taking point himself, ready to take any blade meant for me. Before we can move, Steward Joe drops to his knees, grabbing my leg, begging me to save his mistress from the bandits roaming the mountain. I refuse. I've got no way to help her without abandoning the people I actually came here for. He keeps pleading, insisting my archery alone could save her. I pull free and keep moving. Dad doesn't even hesitate to leave him behind either. Nothing matters more than getting me home alive. We douse our torch and creep along the mountainside, weapons scavenged from the dead, staying hidden. Behind us, Joe's desperate cries fade into the night. We pass the spot where we found Joe and the housekeeper earlier, and I notice she somehow survived, mistaken for a corpse. Then more screaming ahead, and laughter. Bandits, mocking how easily this region falls compared to wherever they came from, taunting their victims before killing them without mercy. One of them beheads a man right in front of us, the head rolling to a stop practically at my feet. For voices. 4 armed killers, all confident, all exposed in torchlight while we stay hidden in shadow. That's our only advantage. I make the call fast. Ambush, now or never. Dad steps in to shield me with his knife, ready to block anything aimed my way. I hand Tied the barbed arrows and tell him to wait for my signal. The 4 bandits round the corner laughing, completely unaware we're waiting. The second they're fully exposed, I give the word. 2 arrows fly. 2 bandits drop. The remaining 2 spot us instantly and charge, swinging wildly. Dad blocks both strikes with his knife, his hands splitting open from the impact, but it buys us just enough time. Tied and I fire again. Only one connects. His arrow goes wide into the darkness, extinguishing a torch and plunging everything into pitch black. The last bandit bolts, screaming for reinforcements. Panic hits fast. If his friends hear him, we're finished. Dad tries to chase, but trips over a body in the dark. Tied freezes, convinced his miss just doomed all of us. That's when something shifts inside me. I lock onto the direction the bandit fled, and suddenly my vision changes completely. I can see a glowing red and green outline of him sprinting through the darkness like some kind of built-in night vision. No time to question it. I take Dad's knife, hand him the bandit's stolen blade, and chase the fleeing man down easily, my new vision cutting straight through the dark like it's broad daylight. He's nearly 25 meters out, past my usual guaranteed range, but somehow I just know this shot lands. I draw, aim for the back of his skull, and let go. Dead center. He drops instantly, twitching. I finish it with the blade across his throat. And there it is again, my system quietly registering another kill. Turns out my night vision isn't some fluke. It's the system unlocking something new in real time. My arms are on fire from all the digging and shooting, but I keep pushing forward. Turns out the night vision thing isn't going anywhere. I can see everything clear as day now, glowing shapes of heat against the freezing dark, red where it's warm, green where it's cold. Dad catches up, panicked that I ran off alone, and I show him I'm fine. Looking at him now, I notice his feet are glowing dangerously cold, soaked through from the snow, worse than I realized. We keep moving toward town with Tiedan's dad on my father's back this time, since I don't need anyone leading the way anymore. Tied sticks close, fully committed to guarding me instead of fighting, which honestly works better given how drained I am. Every shot's taking more out of me than the last. We spot 2 more bandits looting bodies in the dark and take them down clean before they even know we're there. The scale of what's happened out here really sinks in with my new vision. Bodies everywhere, more than I want to count, and no time to feel anything about it. Then we hit a problem. 3 bandits ahead, armed with actual bows this time, spread out defensively. My archery advantage suddenly means nothing if they can shoot back, and my arms are too exhausted to fire quickly enough to take all 3 before they react. Worse, I can hear the group chasing us getting closer from behind. Dad makes a call before I can stop him, offering to draw their attention himself so Tied and I can get through. Tied immediately counters with the same idea, telling me if he doesn't make it, to get his dad home and tell his mom he tried. Neither offer is happening. I refuse both, already trying to think of another way that doesn't end with someone I love dead in the snow. That's when Steward Joe crawls up beside us, having followed the whole way. He offers to be the distraction himself, on one condition. He doesn't ask me to go back for his mistress. He just begs that if I happen to cross paths with her on the way home, I do what I can. I agree instantly, no hesitation. He seems relieved, almost peaceful about it, and gives me one detail before crawling into the darkness toward the 3 armed men. She'll be the most striking person I see, impossible to miss. The 3 bandits are mid-conversation, complaining about their fall from soldiers to outlaws, blaming corrupt officials for pushing them into this life, laughing about the horrors they've committed like it's nothing. Then they hear something. Before they can react, Steward Joe launches out of the snow, tackling one of them to the ground, choking him with everything he's got. The bandit stabs him in the back with his own arrow. Joe refuses to let go even after getting stabbed, sinking his teeth into the bandit's throat until they both go down together. His sacrifice buys just enough time for me to drop a second one clean through the neck. The third turns his bow on me, but I dodge and put an arrow into his chest before he can loose it. Not deep enough to kill outright, so Tied finishes the job in close. Combat, tackling him down and ending it with the knife. Dad finally reaches us with Tiedan's father on his back, and we regroup around Zhou, who's bleeding out fast, his back torn apart from the stabs. He's barely conscious, blood staining his teeth, but he still manages to beg me one more time to find his mistress. I promise again, telling him to hide and rest. He refuses, insisting on staying behind to buy us time, saying the main group's already closing in. He's right. The ground shakes with the sound of dozens of men running our way, screaming threats about skinning us alive for killing their men. We don't have time to argue. I douse the light, grab whatever arrows I can carry, and we run for the village with Dad carrying Tiedan's father and Taidan covering our backs. Behind us, the main bandit force arrives seconds too late to catch us, finding only their dead comrades. Their leader, a scarred brute named Hua, goes into a rage, vowing to burn the whole village down looking for us. That's when a scholar-looking man steps out from the bandit ranks, completely out of place among the killers, except for the terrified young woman bound and gagged at his side, clearly someone of wealth given how the bandits are eyeing her. Turns out this scholar, Han, is the actual brains behind the whole operation, respected even by the bandit leader himself. Han warns the group not to charge in recklessly, correctly guessing there are several skilled archers hiding somewhere nearby, dangerous enough to have already killed a good chunk of their men. Rather than storm the village blindly, he proposes flushing us out with a trap instead, luring us into exposing ourselves, betting that even if we flee, that's exactly the outcome they want. As the bandits creep toward the village edge, Han feels something grab his leg. It's Zhou, barely alive, using his last strength to hold on, begging for his mistress. Turns out the girl bound in Han's arms is the missing young mistress herself. Zhou realizes it in his final moments, and Han, delighted by the twist, drives his sword straight through Zhou's chest, killing him instantly. Zhou's last thought fixed on my promise to find her. The bandits, thrilled at their captive's beauty, start eyeing her with open hunger, jockeying for their turn once Han's done with her, completely unaware that somewhere out in the dark, I made a dying man a promise I fully intend to keep. We drag ourselves into a random house in the village, feeding water and scraps to Tiedan's dad. The old woman inside panics, grabbing a kitchen knife to protect her family, refusing to believe bandits are really coming. Decades of peace makes the truth impossible for her to swallow. Right then, a chilling voice echoes through the dark night, screaming a warning about bandits that's actually the bandits themselves, using it to flush people out of hiding. We give up trying to convince the old woman and split off, Dad taking Taidan and his father to loop back around toward home, while I stay behind under the excuse of scouting whether the bandits are heading their way too. It's not the full truth, and I know it, but I let him go without telling him what I really saw on the way out. The missing young mistress, alive, being dragged around in a bandit's arms. I climb a tree, old thief instincts finally paying off for something good, and watch the whole village wake up in terror as chaos erupts on every side. Screaming, fires, children crying for parents who are already dead. I grit my teeth, forcing myself to stay calm even as I watch things happen I can't stop. I'm one person, my range is limited, and my arms are practically useless from overuse. But I made a promise, and I keep tracking the one bandit holding the girl. He drags her into a house with a mother and her son cowering inside, smiling and promising he won't hurt them, right before killing them both without hesitation and tossing their bodies aside. He drags Steward Zhou's unconscious body inside too, propping him up against the wall, forcing his eyes open so he can watch what's about to happen, then orders his men to guard the door and stay out no matter what. He lights candles, calling himself a civilized man, unlike the rough bandits outside, as he starts untying her. She's completely resigned, ready to die rather than be violated by this monster. Then, right as the ropes loosen halfway, a soft sound cuts through the night outside. He doesn't think twice about it, figures it's nothing, some peasant scurrying around, not worth his attention. He has no idea the person standing outside his door right now is the exact same archer who's already wiped out half his men tonight. The girl notices something's wrong the moment the ropes go slack. No more hands on her, no more voice in the room. She peeks out and spots him near the kitchen door, blade raised, staring down someone hiding behind it. She screams a warning. He kicks the door open and swings anyway, splitting the skull of whoever's standing there. Turns out it's just his own guard, put there as bait. He realizes too late it's a trap. An arrow catches him through the throat before he can process it. Furious, disbelieving, he sees his killer in his final seconds. Just a kid. The knife finishes the job. I check the house, make sure nobody else is hiding, then step in and ask if she's the missing young lady. She confirms it, shaken but alive. I tell her Joe sent me to find her. She thanks me quietly, studying me with a strange, unreadable look, like she recognizes something in my eyes she's only seen in trained guards before, guards who died protecting her tonight, buried under the snow. Neither of us says much. She's clearly devastated. Everyone who protected her is gone, and the man who raised her practically from birth is bleeding out right in front of her. I tell her we need to move, now, before more bandits find us. She agrees quietly. I carry Joe on my back while she helps steady him, and we sneak through the chaos together, taking down anyone who blocks our path. By the time we reach the edge of the village, I've killed another 8 or 9 bandits along the way. She watches in stunned silence, clearly having never seen anyone shoot like this. Every single arrow finding its mark without fail, no exceptions. Then the ground starts shaking. A wall of cavalry thunders in, torches blazing, led by a young man in silver armor swinging a spear like death itself, cutting through bandits without mercy, screaming orders to find his sister. His sister. I look at her again. Everything clicks. She confirms it. Her brothers come for her, and once he's done clearing the bandits, she'll be reunited with her family. I decide right then I want nothing to do with whatever comes next. No dramatic rescue the noble's daughter storyline for me. I just want to quietly build my strength and stay far away from powerful families. I explained that my deal was with Joe, not her family, and now that she's safe, I'm heading out. I set Joe down somewhere safe, give him a little water, and disappear into the dark before she can even process what's happening. She calls after me, asking for my name. I don't answer. Not far down the road, I run into Dad and Tied sprinting back toward danger instead of away from it, coming back to find me. Dad checks me over frantically, relief flooding his face when he finds no wounds, just blood that isn't mine. I don't mention the rescue. No point worrying them more than they already have been tonight. We regroup, share what little food we have left, and push on to catch up with the man who took Tiedon's dad ahead of us toward home. We reach the next town by morning and find a doctor for Tiedon's dad, bone-setting herbs, medicine, everything the last of Ant's coins can buy, plus a bed and blankets bought at a steep price just to get him stable enough to move. By noon, we're finally back in the village, and I spot Ant standing outside, clearly frozen out there since dawn waiting for us. The second she sees the makeshift stretcher, her face goes pale, but she holds it together, forcing a smile and insisting she'll nurse him back to health with chicken soup. Tied can't bring himself to tell her the full extent of the injuries yet, keeping the blanket pulled tight so she doesn't see too much too fast. Old Wu, who helped carry everything home, refuses payment outright, practically offended when I try to hand him coins. I switch tactics, ask him instead to travel around and quietly gather information about what actually happened out at the landslide site. That he accepts. Inside, the crying starts the moment Ant sees the real damage. A broken arm is one thing, but a severed leg tendon means no more farm work, no more normal life, and endless village gossip on top of it. Mom's in there trying to comfort her while cooking porridge, Tied wiping sweat off his dad's forehead, completely lost on how to help. I linger by the doorway, not knowing what words could possibly fix this. Then Tiedon's dad wakes up, weakly comforting his crying wife instead of the other way around, telling Tied he brought his favorite snacks and to share them with me. Tied breaks down completely. I slip away, heading to the frozen stream alone to process everything. Thinking about my own parents going through something like this hits harder than I expect. I fire an arrow straight into the ice out of pure frustration, cursing every bandit that ever existed. My gear's a mess, most of my arrows destroyed from the fight, only one barely usable. My bow survived fine at least. Word's already spreading that bandits made it into our county, which means the whole region's more dangerous than anyone realized. I decide I need to get stronger, fast, if I want to actually protect this family long term. Then I remember something from last night. Killing bandits gave points too, and my hunting level jumped. I check my status and find my points have shot up dramatically from the fight. And there, tucked into my system, something new, a whole vault of knowledge I never noticed before. Brewing techniques, cement making, plow designs, water wheels, technology centuries ahead of anything in this world. Even better, seeds, corn, potatoes, sweet potatoes, high-yield crops that could end hunger for the entire village if I ever managed to plant them. The cost, though, is brutal. Most of these unlock for hundreds or thousands of points, numbers I can't imagine reaching through casual hunting alone. Then I spot something perfect, a wound-healing salve recipe specifically for severed tendons, priced at exactly the amount I'm just barely short of. I'm 10 points away. Determined, I grab my gear and head straight back to the stream instead of resting, mixing together fish bait from scraps of blood and oil. Every fish I land chips away at that gap, slow and small compared to what a real hunt or bandit fight pays out. But it's something, and this time, it's not for me. It's for the family that took me in when nobody else would. I keep fishing until I hit my target, then head home with a full basket. Mom's already cooking a proper feast for Tiedon's dad, pork ribs mixed into the rice, ribs stewed with cabbage, a ribbon radish soup with chili to fight the cold, plus liquor Dad picked up to help him sleep through the pain. My siblings carry everything to Aunt's side of the house, careful not to sneak a single bite even though it smells incredible. Then I hear it. Aunt's voice, thick with gratitude, thanking Mom for everything Tied told her about how I saved her husband from the bandits. A thump follows. She's dropped to her knees. Mom's completely blindsided. She had no idea any of this happened, thought it was just the landslide. I rush in and pull Aunt back up immediately, mortified at the idea of her kneeling to me. Tied drops down too, insisting on thanking me properly, and I basically panic trying to get both of them back on their feet, redirecting everyone toward eating before the food gets cold. Back in our room, the mood shifts hard. My sister and brother go quiet, processing what they just overheard. Mom's face goes tight with worry, clearly putting pieces together she never had before. Dad comes in a while later, and Mom asks him straight out if it's true. Bandits, not just a landslide. He goes silent for a second, realizing Tied must have let it slip to Aunt, and since the secret's already out, he tells the whole story. The digging, the rescue, the ambush, all of it, including how I fought through wave after wave of bandits and stayed behind alone to cover our escape. My sister's staring at me like I'm a legend. My brother forgets to swallow his food for a full 3 minutes. Mom's hand is at her throat through the whole retelling, practically holding her breath at the part where I got surrounded. By the end, she's shaking, torn between fury at Dad for letting me stay behind and heartbreak at what could have happened. She can't even bring herself to yell at him properly once she sees how exhausted and banged up he looks himself. My sister asks quietly if I got hurt. My brother starts patting me down without waiting for an answer, checking every inch like a tiny inspector. I tell Mom straight, no wounds, nothing happened to me, I'm completely fine. Dad stays quiet, clearly replaying his decision to leave me behind over and over in his head. Mom checks me over 3 separate times before she finally believes I'm unharmed, and even then she's shaken. She makes me promise, no more risking my life like that. No fighting bandits, no danger, ever again. I promise her what she needs to hear, even though I know deep down this world's only getting more dangerous from here. She adds one more rule for good measure, no more mountain hunting either. I try to negotiate. She shuts it down instantly. My sister just watches the whole exchange, quietly happy despite everything. Warm house, good food, a mother who clearly loves her brother fiercely. She glances down and finds a couple pieces of rib, meat she missed digging out of her rice, and immediately splits them between me and Dad without a second thought, because after everything, we're the ones who worked hardest to keep this family safe. Dad tosses the meat back into my sister's bowl, coughing a little before telling Mom he thinks I should keep hunting, with my archery and this strange gift I seem to have. The mountains aren't as dangerous for me as they'd be for anyone else. Mom shoots him a look, annoyed he's not backing her up. She heads into the kitchen instead, determined to fuel my recovery properly after 2 sleepless days. My sister jumps in to help her, cleaning fish and saving the guts in a jar for future bait. Soon a whole pot of fish soup hits the table. I'm completely wrecked. 2 days without sleep, dozens of arrows fired, my whole body aching down to the bone. My little brother has to help tuck me in because I can barely lift the blanket myself. Right before I drift off, I catch Mom quietly rubbing warm pig fat into Dad's cracked, bleeding knuckles, wrapping them carefully in cloth. I sleep hard, dreaming about hunting another fox. When I wake up, it's already past noon. My sister's thrilled to see me up, proudly showing off the fish soup she made herself for the first time. She tells me Dad's out fixing tools in the field, and Mom and my brother are brewing medicine for Tiedon's dad. Checking my status, my strength keeps climbing steadily. At this rate, I might actually catch up to Tiedon's raw power within a month. Weirdly, waking up without him hovering around already feels off. Poor guy's had such a rough stretch, finally getting his dad back only for it to come wrapped in tragedy. Fixing that tendon is priority one. I finally have enough points saved up for the healing salve recipe. The system dumps the full formula into my head. Dozens of unfamiliar herbs and measurements, completely foreign to me. No idea if I can even afford the ingredients with the 100 coins we've got left, but there's only one way to find out. Heading out, I spot fourth uncle lurking by the gate, clearly working up courage before bailing entirely, dropping a bundle and sprinting off the second he sees me. Inside, more medicine herbs, same as last time. Whatever's going on in that guy's head, he's at least trying in his own sneaky way. On the way to the village head's house, I pass the old family home and stop to greet Big Aunt and my cousins, who are pounding fresh rice together, all smiles. Turns out the gifts I sent over already changed how they see me. Big Uncle's apparently been losing sleep with regret over kicking us out in the first place. I toss a piece of candy to second uncle's little boy, who's happily stomping the rice pestle barefoot in freezing weather. Everyone laughs, charmed that I hold no grudge against a little kid just because of his parents. Then second aunt's voice cuts through, sharp and panicked, scolding her son for taking candy from strangers. Second aunt snatches the candy right out of her son's mouth, calling it poison, of all things. Big Aunt and my cousins just stare, stunned she'd say something so vicious about her own kid. I don't bother arguing, just say my goodbyes and get out of there fast before she starts foaming at the mouth. She fires off one last nasty comment about keeping an eye on me, so I don't steal from the old house, still shoving candy back into her crying son's mouth, like that makes any sense. At the village head's place, his wife hands me a block of frozen tofu for Tiedon's dad, genuinely sympathetic about the accident. The whole village thinks he just fell and broke his leg. Nobody knows about the bandits, and we're keeping it that way in case they come looking for revenge. I asked the village head about herb prices, rattling off over 20 ingredient names from memory. He's shocked I even know half of them, but walks me through what he can. Doing the math in my head, the full batch of medicine is going to cost roughly 2 taels of silver, money we simply don't have. Looks like another hunting trip just got moved up the schedule. Back home, Aunt and Tiedon's dad call me over. He's sitting up now, smiling warmly despite everything. Clearly where Taidan gets his relentless optimism from. I hand over the frozen tofu for tonight's fish stew, and Aunt gets emotional again, completely overwhelmed by how much our family's done for them. Then Tiedon's dad insists on thanking me properly, having Taidan kneel and bow 3 times on his behalf since he can't get up himself. I try to stop it, but everyone's dead serious about it, so I just let it happen, mortified the whole time. Then he pulls out his life savings, 4 taels and change, a full year of backbreaking labor in the city, scraped together after food and rent. He tries handing it straight to me. Mom immediately objects, insisting it's not right to take a man's hard-earned money like that. But Aunt won't take no for an answer, pressing the silver into my hands herself, saying they won't feel right unless I accept it. Given I'm short exactly the amount I need for the medicine, the timing couldn't be more perfect. I take it, promising them straight to their faces that his leg will heal completely, good as new. Aunt just smiles sadly, clearly not believing that's actually possible. Nobody around here has ever heard of a severed tendon healing right. She's already resigned herself to him limping for the rest of his life, grateful just that he's alive at all. My sister calls out that the fish soup's ready, her first solo attempt. I head over and start chopping frozen tofu into the pot, watching her curiosity spike at the sight of tofu frozen rock solid, harder than a dumpling. She's skeptical it'll even taste good, but trusts me completely at this point, convinced whatever I say must be right. The fish soup lands in Aunt's room, and Tiden grabs it before it even touches the table. My sister glows with pride when everyone praises her cooking, cheeks going red at all the attention. Tiedon's dad looks a little embarrassed having the whole family watching him eat, but he can't help admitting it's delicious, and my sister lights up like a lantern. She's also steamed a whole batch of buns with fine white flour, insisting he needs the good stuff to heal properly. Even Aunt takes a bite and melts a little, soft and sweet in a way that feels like pure luxury. I carry a bowl out to Dad in the yard, still hunched over fixing tools in the cold. He's stunned. I brought him white flour buns, the good stuff, normally saved for special occasions, and tries to wave it off, insisting he doesn't need it, that my little brother should eat instead. I tell him there's plenty more, and he eats anyway, clearly torn between guilt and hunger, finishing 2 buns and a bowl of soup like it's the best meal of his life. He asks about Tiedon's dad's condition. I tell him straight, the leg tendons severed, the arms crushed beyond normal repair. He sighs heavy, then quietly offers to take over farming both plots so Tiedon's dad can focus on healing. I tell him not to worry yet. I'm heading to town this afternoon for herbs, with real hope of fixing the leg. He doesn't believe it at first, but I tell him I'm 80% confident. He's floored. 2 different doctors already looked at the injury and said there was nothing to be done. Somewhere in his head, he's starting to think I really do have some kind of divine protection watching over me. I head out to town with the silver, buy most of the ingredients I need from the market stalls and the apothecary, but 2 rare herbs are nowhere to be found. Turns out I'll have to travel all the way to the county seat for those. On the way back through town, I stop by the blacksmith to restock arrows. Zheng Ling barely looks up, asking what happened to my last set. When I admit they're basically destroyed, he immediately puts it together. No ordinary hunting trip breaks that many arrows unless something serious happened. He asks if I was in the neighboring township during the landslide. I admit it, telling him straight I ran into bandits and had to fight for my life. He asks how many I killed. I honestly don't have an exact count. The whole fight's a blur of adrenaline, no fear, just instinct. I guess around 20. His eyes go wide. 20. A trained soldier might not kill that many in an entire career, and here's a 13-year-old standing in front of him completely calm, no trauma, no shaking hands, talking about it like it's just another Tuesday. He studies me for a long moment, clearly recalculating everything he thought he knew about me. Zheng Ling asks how many of us there were that night. I tell him 4. That eases something in him. A group effort makes more sense than a lone kid pulling off a massacre. He asks who the other 3 were. I tell him honestly. My dad, my cousin, and my cousin's dad, who couldn't even move because his leg and arm were wrecked. He goes dead silent. 1 injured man, 2 kids, and a farmer somehow wiped out 20 bandits and walked away alive. He asks how my dad and cousin's archery compares to mine. I tell him straight. Dad doesn't even use a bow, just a knife, and split his hand open blocking strikes. My cousin's archery is basically what I taught him, which isn't saying much. Zheng Ling puts down his hammer and just stares at nothing for a while. 2 decent archers, 1 useless in a fight, 1 carrying a wounded man the whole time, and somehow they wiped the floor with 20 grown bandits. He mutters that the bandit gang must have been pathetic weaklings, then disappears into the back room and comes out with a heavy wooden bow, tossing it to me without ceremony. I ask what it's for. He explains it's carved from ironwood, twice the draw strength of my bamboo bow, powerful enough to punch clean through boar hide, something even proper farm tools can't manage, against the wild pigs that tear up crops every spring. I'm floored. This thing is worth way more than I can afford right now, especially with the herb money already spent. I try to explain I can't pay for it. He cuts me off immediately, telling me he never asked for payment, just to take it and use it. He only charges me for the arrows. Walking home, I test fire the new bow into the dirt, and it takes real effort just to pull the arrow back out. This thing hits way harder than anything I've used before. My strength's grown enough to handle the draw, barely, though I need a full minute to recover between shots. On the road, I run into Old Wu, practically vibrating with news from his trip to the neighboring township. Word is the bandit gang wreaked havoc there, killing over 300 people before the regional cavalry showed up just in time to stop a full massacre. The leader escaped into the mountains, now the subject of a massive bounty. Something clicks while he's talking, The cavalry commander screaming about finding his sister that night. The sheer number of horsemen for a rural county this size. That girl I saved might belong to someone seriously important. Old Wu suddenly puts it together too, asking outright if my family escaped that township the other night. I tell him the truth and ask him to keep it quiet, worried about retaliation. He agrees immediately, impressed instead of scared, joking that I'm becoming the village's top hunter. Back home, Mom's waiting anxiously at the gate, scolding me for staying out so late with danger everywhere. I reassure her I only went to buy herbs, nothing more. She tells me to stay home from now on and let Dad handle errands instead. Inside, my sisters made the same fish soup and leftover buns from lunch, and she lights up every time I praise her cooking. Mom watches us together, some of the worry easing off her face, hoping quietly that peaceful nights like this one can just keep going. Tai Dan and I set off before sunrise, walking the muddy path along the creek toward the county town. He's quiet and worried the whole way, asking if the town really is medicine that can fix his dad's leg. I feed him a bun and tell him not to worry too much. Mom fought hard against this trip last night, but Dad overruled her, so she spent the whole night baking buns instead, stuffing them with the cured meat the scholar gave us so we wouldn't go hungry. 20 buns, wrapped in 3 layers of cloth, plus about 100 warnings not to fight anyone, avoid strangers, and never flash our money around. We passed through the neighboring townships, quieter than usual since word of the massacre has spread and everyone's staying locked indoors. Mom worried this would be dangerous. I figure the opposite. More soldiers patrolling means safer roads, not less. Near the ruined township, figures block the road ahead. 2 officials and 2 cavalry soldiers on horseback. Tai Dan and I both draw our bows, not taking chances. Turns out they're legitimate government soldiers, checking travelers after the massacre. I offer them buns as a peace gesture, and the second they taste the cured meat inside, their whole demeanor softens. We chat, they clear us to pass, and we head on, Tai Dan visibly shaken just from the encounter despite the soldiers being perfectly friendly. The ruined township itself is a graveyard now. Every house in mourning, the destruction total. We pass through in silence. By mid-afternoon, we finally reach the county seat itself. Tiedan's never seen anything like it. Proper stone walls, banners, a real gate with bells. To him it might as well be a mythical beast crouched on the horizon. I have to remind him to stop drooling and get moving. Walking through the county gate feels like stepping into another world. Tiedan's frozen stiff with nerves, terrified we'll owe money just for entering, but the guards barely glance at us. A poor kid with buns in a basket. Isn't worth their trouble, especially with everyone on edge after the massacre. We bury our bows outside the walls first, since weapons clearly aren't getting past the checkpoint. Once inside, Tiedan's jaw drops at the sight of it all. Thousands of tiled roofs stretching to the horizon, smoke curling from countless chimneys, noise and life everywhere. He starts, dreaming about following his dad's footsteps into the city for work someday, until his excitement fades fast at the sight of homeless kids huddled against the city walls, begging with empty bowls. He wants to give them some of our buns. I tell him no, they're not our people, and Mom didn't stay up all night baking these for strangers. He accepts it quietly, though I can tell it bothers him. Finding the apothecary turns into its own adventure. We wander half the city lost, exhausted, before finally spotting strings of dried herb bags hanging outside a shop. The owner sizes us up as country kids and tries charging triple. I haggle hard, using what I learned pricing herbs back home, and manage to knock it down to only 1.5 times the fair price. Still painful, but the best we're getting. While paying, the shopkeeper fishes for information, asking sweetly what the rare herbs are for. Tai Dan, honest to a fault, almost blurts out everything about his dad's leg before catching himself and shutting his mouth, glaring at the man for trying to trick him. We leave, and the shopkeeper's left puzzling over what exactly needs herbs meant for leg pain, sprain, ache, or something worse. By now it's getting dark and I'm doing math in my head. The herbs ate up most of our silver, plus the bow money from earlier. Staying overnight in the city would cost more than I want to spend on top of everything, especially knowing how hard Tiedan's dad worked for this money. Better to just push through and travel back at night again. We're both starving after a full day of walking with nothing but buns to show for it, so I find a food stall right by the gate before the city locks down for the night. I order enough to actually fill us up, lamb buns, fried dough balls, sweet rice porridge, determined to get us fed fast so we can make it out before curfew. The buns come out steaming, stuffed with ginger and lamb. Exactly the kind of warmth we need after a brutal day. I tell Tai-Dan to eat as much as he wants, reminding him this is his dad's money well spent, and that's all the encouragement he needs to stop holding back and dig in. We finish our meal, satisfied and warm for the first time all day. I grab some candied fruit skewers for my siblings back home, knowing they've never had anything like it, and a bit of liquor for the road. Heading out through the gate before it locks for the night, we push into the freezing darkness, feet going numb after hours of walking. Staying overnight in the city would have cost more than either of us feels right spending, especially with this being Tiedan's dad's hard-earned money. Better to just push through and get home. We stop to rest and share a little liquor to warm up. Tai-Dan can barely handle a sip without coughing, which makes me laugh. The real strong stuff back home would knock him flat. Then I spot something in the distance. A shape moving down from the mountain, glancing back nervously every few steps like he's got something to hide. Something about him feels wrong. I tell Tai-Dan to stay quiet and get his bow ready. We creep closer, and when the figure finally turns his head, I see it clearly, a jagged scar running down his face like a centipede. It's him, the bandit leader, the one with the 100-tail bounty on his head. He's sneaking toward a house up ahead, careful and slow, completely unaware that someone can see him clear as day from dozens of meters back. He reaches the door, pushes it open, ready to strike whoever's inside. And that's when my arrow finds his throat first. A second arrow lands in his chest before he can even think about running, and he crumples against the door, banging into it as he goes down. The mother and daughter inside jolt awake, terrified, begging whoever's out there not to hurt them. Tai-Dan and I drag the body over the wall into an empty courtyard. He's practically vibrating with pride, insisting his arrow was the one that got the heart. Honestly, in pitch darkness, landing a hit like that by sound alone is impressive. Maybe he's got more natural talent than I gave him credit for. Petty as it is, I stab the corpse a few more times out of spite, and Tai-Dan follows suit, venting all his rage over his dad's leg into the body. We take turns sleeping in an abandoned house, since half the village is dead and the other half fled. No point disturbing anyone left. I drift off dreaming about my next hunting trip, imagining catching a deer this time. Before dawn, Tai-Dan wakes me for his shift. I lie there thinking about home, missing my parents, wondering if mom's actually sleeping or lying awake worrying about us. I go through the corpse, military-issue armor, boots, a saber stamped with army markings. This guy was a deserter, not just some random bandit. Makes me wonder just how bad things have gotten out there. I decide once we're back, I need to actually learn to read properly instead of just muddling through. Official notices and reports are basically gibberish to me right now. At sunrise, we clean out Tiedan's basket, load the body inside, and head for the checkpoint. The same 2 cavalry soldiers are there, having just switched shifts. I hand over the last of our buns. One jokes that we must be helping the bandit leader gather intel, which spooks Tai-Dan, but I brush it off with a laugh. I ask about the bounty. Is the 100 tails real? The soldier confirms it, explaining their unit spent 3 full days combing the mountains for this guy, without luck. The officials nearby scoff at 2 kids even asking, clearly writing us off as naive farm boys dreaming too big. Then I tell Tai-Dan to show them what's in the basket. He unloads the body onto the ground, and the mocking laughter dies instantly. The soldier pulls out a wanted poster, comparing the scarred face against the corpse, hands shaking slightly as he confirms it. It's him, the bandit leader everyone in 3 counties has been hunting. The officials go pale, completely stunned that 2 barely teenage boys managed what 50 trained cavalry couldn't in 3 days combing the mountains. Suspicion creeps in fast. Surely someone helped them. Someone must be behind this. I tell them plainly. No help. Just the 2 of us, 1 arrow each. The soldier examines the wounds carefully, one through the throat, fatal and deep, clearly the kill shot from real skill. The other through the chest, blocked partly by armor, but still enough to finish the job. Within minutes, both soldiers have pieced together exactly what happened, and their expressions shift from disbelief to genuine unease. They ask me to walk them through exactly how it went down. I keep the story simple when they ask what happened. Heard a noise, saw a shadow, guessed it might be the fugitive, fired blind, and got lucky. Nothing about seeing in the dark. Tai-Dan stays quiet too, protecting my secret without me even asking. The soldiers buy it completely, chalking it up to blind luck, while the two officials nearby practically turn green with envy over the missed payday. 100 taels is more than either of them makes in years, but with how strict the local governor runs things, nobody's brave enough to try anything shady. One of the soldiers asks to see my archery for himself. I deliberately fire a wild shot at a nearby tree, missing on purpose, playing dumb about my real skill. Better safe than showing my whole hand to strangers with swords. Then he spots my bow and immediately recognizes the wood. Turns out he's a genuine archery enthusiast, and once he realizes what I'm carrying, the wound depth on the bandit's throat suddenly makes perfect sense to him. A weapon like that in the hands of even an average shooter could easily punch that deep. They insist on taking us straight to their commander to claim the bounty. Tiden hesitates, worried about getting home in time for his dad, but they promise it won't take long. Their garrison station right in the county seat. We end up riding double on their horses, which turns out to be the wildest experience of either of my lives. The wind cuts straight through me, my legs are way too short to grip properly, and I basically have to lie flat against the horse's neck just to avoid getting thrown off. Snow kicks up everywhere, soaking through my coat. Mom's going to have questions when she sees the state of these clothes. By the time we reach the garrison, I'm completely wrecked from the ride, and Tiedon's outright throwing up the second his feet hit solid ground. The soldier who brought us, Lou, just laughs it off, clearly used to first-timers reacting exactly like this. We're searched thoroughly at the gate, 3 separate ID checks, weapons confiscated, before finally being let inside. The camp's intense, soldiers drilling everywhere, and Tiden can't stop gawking until he gets smacked on the head for staring too much. Inside the command tent, a young general sits reading with zero visible reaction to the freezing cold, completely absorbed in whatever military text he's studying. When Lou announces they've brought in the bandit leader's body, the general barely looks up, telling him to verify the corpse and go collect the reward, assuming Lou made the kill himself. Lou has to correct him, explaining it was actually us 2 kids who did it. That gets his attention. He looks up properly this time, and the second I see his face, it clicks. This is the same commander from that chaotic night, the one screaming for his missing sister while cutting through bandits on horseback. Which means this young general in front of me right now is Miss John's brother. Barely 20 years old and already commanding an entire garrison. Whatever family he comes from, it's clearly got serious pull. I repeat the same simple story, and the general listens closely until I mention the fatal shot through the throat in the dark. His face changes completely, and he asks straight up what bow I used. I tell him the truth on that one, ironwood. He mutters something about it not being mulberry wood, meaning I'm not the archer who saved his sister, and waves us off to collect the reward. The payout comes to a full 100 taels of pure silver, wrapped in cloth and tucked at the bottom of Tiedon's basket. He stands there completely dazed, staring at the fortune like it's a dream, refusing to let himself think of it as anything but mine. We ride back with the 2 soldiers, and I make it through this trip without throwing up, unlike Tiden, who's still miserable the whole way. Before parting, I try slipping them each some silver as thanks. Neither will accept it. Military pays honest here, and taking money from 2 kids would be shameful. I drag them into town instead and buy them a full feast, cured meat, liquor, everything I can think of, determined to repay them somehow even if it's just through their stomachs. Once they're riding off, satisfied and loaded down with gifts, I overhear them talking as they leave. One points out how composed I was through the whole ordeal, showing up deliberately at daybreak instead of at night, refusing the reward at first, generally acting far more mature than any 13-year-old should. The other one starts piecing something together, comparing my archery, my bow, the wound pattern on the bandit leader's throat, against the story of the mysterious archer who saved the general's sister that same night. He connects the dots, realizing that despite my carefully staged miss in front of them, the real skill level required to land that throat shot in pitch darkness lines up exactly with what they'd expect from a true marksman, and that the boy who actually saved the girl used my hunting cousin's mulberry bow, not mine, meaning the story doesn't quite fit either of us as they first assumed. Except it does. They just can't prove it, and I made sure of that. They decide to let it go, silently amused that I clearly want nothing to do with the family's gratitude or attention. By the time Tai Dan and I make it home, the village snow's already starting to melt under the winter sun. It feels like we've been gone a lifetime instead of a day and a half. Mom and Aunt come rushing out the second they hear my voice, both of them clearly having stayed up worried sick all night. Dad's been waiting at the village entrance since dawn, ready to head to the county seat himself if we hadn't shown up soon. I tell Tai Dan firmly, nobody hears about the 100 Tales. He agrees instantly, promising not to breathe a word, even to his own parents. I correct him. Obviously his parents can know, they're family, just not anyone connected to the old house. Aunt's practically in tears hearing we found every ingredient we needed, thanking me over and over, completely overwhelmed. Tai Dan, exhausted and barely able to stand after a sleepless night, finally just asks if we can go to bed already. Tai Dan almost blurts out we actually stayed overnight in the city, but I cover for him fast, blaming exhaustion for the confusion. We both crash hard and don't wake up until evening. I hide the silver under the floor before dinner, splitting it into 2 hidden stashes, then lay out all 26 herbs and wait for the right moment. After a big family dinner, I pull out candied fruit skewers I bought for my siblings, the first sweet treat either of them's ever seen, and they go absolutely wild for it, running circles around the yard in pure joy. I offer some to the adults too, but nobody wants to touch it, insisting the kids should have it all. Then I get to work on the medicine. The kitchen fills with sharp, bitter smells as I follow the formula step by step. Dried herbs into the pot, brown sugar cracked and stirred in until the broth thickens and darkens, blood resin powder swirled in until the whole mixture froths red. I'm sweating buckets despite the winter cold, completely absorbed in getting every step right, finally adding the last 2 rare herbs and simmering everything down into a thick, glossy, greenish paste. It works on the first try. I'm honestly a little proud. Turns out I've got a knack for this stuff, same as archery. I carry the jar into Aunt's room, and the whole family goes silent, staring at it like it's some kind of miracle. My little brother wonders out loud if it's edible. Aunt's crying before I even explain, and Tai Dan asks straight up if it'll actually work. Truth is, I don't know for sure. The system gave me the formula, but there's no guarantee until we actually try it. I tell Tai Dan to go apply it to his dad's leg, then head back to our room to figure out what to do with the 100 Tales. 50 for Tiedan's family seems obvious, but that much silver showing up out of nowhere could attract exactly the kind of attention we don't want. Namely, grandparents suddenly remembering we exist. I decide to trust Aunt and Tiedan's dad to handle the money responsibly and hand it over tomorrow regardless. For my own share, I settle on investing in brewing, buying grain in bulk and distilling proper liquor, since everything sold locally tastes weak and rough by comparison. Unlocking the real brewing technique in my system costs points I don't have yet, which means another hunting trip is coming up soon. My little brother demolishes 3 whole candy skewers by himself, licking the sticks clean, while my sister only eats 2 before jumping in to help with dishes. Life's been rough for these two, starting this year. That changes for good. The next morning, I wake up to Tai Dan screaming loud enough to rattle the roof tiles. His dad can walk. Tai Dan bursts into the room and drops straight into a full kowtow at my bedside before Mom can even stop him, insisting he doesn't care about the consequences, willing to trade years off his own life just to thank me properly. I rush over to Aunt's room and see it myself. Tiedan's dad, upright, wobbly but walking, supported by Aunt. The second they spot me, both of them start to kneel again, and I lunge forward just in time to stop them, half panicked, insisting nobody bow to me on a day this happy. Aunt breaks down completely, sobbing that she thought her husband would be bettered in for life. He gently wipes her tears and turns to me, calling me the family savior. Feeling another wave of gratitude coming, I make my escape back to our room before it fully hits, leaving Tai Dan to look after his dad. Mom's got the kitchen sparkling now, humming while she works, happy the house finally feels like a home instead of the mess we brought with us. Dad's out with my brother buying holiday supplies, even though we've already got plenty of food. Turns out it's tradition to buy a little of everything on this day, whether you need it or not, just for good luck. I head out to the mountain base to cut pine branches for warding off evil spirits, itching for my next hunting trip. My strength's climbed enough now that I've got a solid 25-meter range of guaranteed hits, and I can't wait to test it. I decide New Year's Day is the perfect time to go, No need to visit the old house for the holiday, so I might as well spend it doing something I actually enjoy. I grab extra branches for Tieton's family too. Their house is louder than ever these days, laughter spilling out constantly now that his dad can walk again. Simple happiness, but it hits different after everything they've been through. Back home, Mom and my sister are busy with holiday baking. Steamed date buns stacked like little mountains, sweet porridge simmering with red beans and jujubes. My sister's beaming, proud to be helping with something special for once. But I catch a flicker of sadness cross her face when she mentions missing her cousin from the old house, the girl who used to help her with this same tradition, until she got sold off for money. My sister doesn't say much about it, but I can tell she's scared of ending up the same way if things ever got bad again. She's determined to be good, to be useful, so nobody ever considers selling her. She serves me a bowl of the sweet porridge, proud of the extra sugar she snuck in, and I make sure to praise her cooking loud enough for everyone to hear. Mom sends me to return a jar of rice wine to a neighbor, so I grab some cured meat and candy for the trade. The neighbor, a widow raising her daughter alone since her husband died young, is elbow-deep in dough when I arrive, panicking slightly that her bread's overproofed. Her daughter greets me cheerfully, delighted by the candy. Watching the widow work, an idea sparks. She clearly knows brewing inside and out, and she's close by. Once I've got the points saved up for proper distilling techniques, partnering with her could work out well for both families. I wander the village a while longer, soaking in the holiday mood everywhere. Laughter, steam rising from every chimney, old superstitions about cracked buns meaning good luck for the coming year. Then I remember one more debt to settle. I grab some fish and head to the widow who lent me the bow and arrows weeks ago. She refuses at first, insisting it's too generous a gift for a simple loan, but I insist right back, and she finally accepts with a laugh, wishing me safe hunting for my next trip into the mountains. By the time I get home, Dad and my brother are back loaded down with holiday supplies. Mom scolding Dad lightly for how much everything costs this time of year. Prices always jump before New Year's. Dad ties a red ribbon into my sister's hair, and the whole family laughs together, happy and warm. My sister can't stop smiling, eating steamed buns and fish soup like it's the best meal of her life, while my little brother stares in awe at the pretty ribbon in her hair. Mom's date buns fill both houses, more than we know what to do with. My little brother's practically a different kid now, shouting excitedly about the lamb dinner I've promised for tonight, and Mom mentions Dad wasted money buying fish when I could have just caught some myself. Dad stays quiet, but everyone in the village knows by now that I've turned my life around. Everyone except my grandparents and second aunt, who still won't say a kind word about me. I keep the dinner menu a secret, letting my sister's imagination run wild with guesses. After a nap, Tieton and I head to the stream, and he's a completely different archer now. Sharper, more focused, landing solid hits nearly half the time within 10 meters. Then he asks to come hunting in the mountains with me, admitting he wants to get strong enough to protect his parents. I know his parents would never allow it. He's their only child. So I set the same challenge as before. Hit a fish's eye from 20 meters, and he can come. He throws himself into practice immediately, riddling a poor fish pinned to the wall with arrows everywhere except the eye. Dad avoids watching entirely, worried he'll crack and rescue the poor fish from further abuse. Dinner time arrives, and I take over the kitchen personally while both families wait eagerly. My sister ties my apron for me. Mom's thawed the lamb the scholar gifted us. 20 pounds total, ribs and cuts both, and I plan to turn it into a proper feast, since my siblings have genuinely never tasted lamb before in their lives. I slice the tenderloin thin, marinate it quick, then fire up the wok with a generous scoop of pork fat. More than Mom's ever comfortable seeing used, but we've got plenty now and always will. She winces watching me use it so freely, imagining what Grandma would say if she saw this kind of wastefulness. I stir-fry the lamb fast and hot with chili, peppercorns, garlic, and scallions, timing everything carefully so nothing burns. Then toss in cabbage and radish strips before folding the meat back in with a touch of sugar to round out the flavor. Spicy stir-fried lamb, done. The ribs take more work. Parboiled first to clear out the gamey smell, simmered slow with seasoning and liquor until they're falling apart tender, then finished with cabbage and radish soaking up all that rich broth. Mom and my sister watch the whole process completely mesmerized, like I'm performing magic. The smell alone has everyone drooling before it's even done. Meanwhile, in the other house, Tiedon's dad refuses to stay seated, insisting on walking laps around the yard with help, getting stronger by the hour. Aunt's practically glowing watching him move on his own again, and we're barely halfway through the medicine. Dad teaches my little brother the old New Year traditions, drawing a protective circle with Ash by the door, the one Chinese character he actually knows how to write. Then having him run 3 victory laps around it with a torch while I light the pine branches I cut earlier, letting them crackle and pop to scare off bad spirits. Dad tells the old legend about the New Year beast being afraid of fire and noise, and somehow his simple, earthy telling lands way better than second uncle's fancy scholarly version ever did. Then the smell of the lamb hits everyone at once, and even Dad, trying so hard to stay composed, can't help sneaking glances toward the kitchen, wondering when exactly his son learned to cook like this. Dinner's ready. Tied-in stares at the lamb like I performed actual magic. I tell everyone to stop admiring it and eat while it's hot. I pour a big bowl of rib soup for Tiedon's dad, telling him it'll warm him up and help him heal faster. He thanks me quietly and digs in without another word, the highest compliment a cook can get. My siblings get a spoonful of ribs each. Mom and Dad try their usual trick, only touching cabbage and radish, claiming they don't even like meat. I don't buy it for a second and swap my rice for theirs, forcing meat into their bowls instead. Mom protests weakly, but my sister plays along, pretending she won't eat until Mom does. That settles it. Mom takes her first real bite of lamb rib, and something shifts in her face. This is what second uncle used to brag about eating at the scholar's house, like it was food fit for gods. Turns out it's not so different from pork ribs at first. Except the more she chews, the more the flavor sinks in, rich and lingering. She hasn't eaten meat this often in her whole life until now. Every few days there's fish, pork, or lamb on the table, prepared a dozen different ways. It feels like being a cherished child again, the way she was before life got hard. She almost tears up right there at the table, catching herself before it ruins the mood. Surrounded by her whole family, safe and fed, what more could anyone ask for? My little brother, despite hating spicy food, keeps going back for more of the stir-fried lamb anyway, coughing through every bite. I get up and bring him a bowl of rice water to cool his mouth down, and he chugs it happily before diving right back into the spicy dish. Everyone laughs. Dad eats quietly, clearly relieved watching my siblings this happy. He remembers how scared and quiet my little brother used to be around me, back when I used to hit him and steal his food. He couldn't stop it back then, not with Mom always making excuses for me. Now, seeing how open and cheerful my brother's become, some deep worry in him finally settles. Whatever happened to me during those days I was unconscious, it changed everything. After dinner, Tied-in and I sharpen arrows while the moms trade neighborhood gossip on the heated bed. Who's doing well, who isn't? Half a month ago, our family was the poorest, most pitted household in the village. Now everyone's amazed at how quickly things turned around. Mom's practically glowing, and Aunt keeps glancing at Tiedon's dad's legs every few minutes, unable to stop smiling. My sister listens quietly, a flicker of sadness crossing her face, thinking about her cousin from the old house, gone now, sold away. Back at the old house, the New Year's dinner is nothing like ours. Plain, quiet, no laughter, no excitement for the year ahead. Just chicken and cabbage, a rare treat there, but nothing compared to what we have. Grandpa and Grandma go to bed early. Big Uncle and his wife clean up, while their sons pick through leftover chicken bones. Fourth Uncle disappears into the cold with a bundle under his coat, and nobody bothers asking where he's going anymore. Second Uncle turns in early too, excited about tomorrow's gathering at the scholar's house. Poetry, wine, maybe even some coins if he plays his cards right. All he can think about is impressing the right people before his exams in spring. That night, 3 people share one bed. Second Uncle and his son sleep soundly, but Second Aunt lies awake, silently crying, thinking about the daughter she sold away. She has no idea if the girl's being fed properly, if she's cold, if she's safe. A signed contract means she's no longer family, no matter how much it still hurts. Meanwhile, in the wealthy household in town, fireworks light up the night sky, something no one in the village has ever seen. The sold daughter watches in stunned wonder, tears freezing on her cheeks as she thinks of home, of her mother, of her little brother, clutching a half-melted piece of candy she'd been given as a small reward. She whispers into the cold night how much she misses everyone, how much she wishes she could go home. Waking up before dawn kicks off New Year's Eve properly. Ancestor worship and blessings first. Half an hour of ritual before the fun part. New clothes. Mom and Aunt pull out fabric from the scholar's gift and go all out sewing outfits for all 4 kids. Turns out Mom used to be locally famous for her needlework before marrying Dad and disappearing into years of poverty. Today she finally gets to show off again. Tied-in looks strong in his. I look sharp. My sister looks adorable. My brother looks like a little prince. Both families can't stop smiling. Breakfast is a joint affair since we're all one household now. Ingot-shaped dumplings, a New Year tradition, stuffed with lamb, cabbage, and radish. Aunt whips them out effortlessly while my sister struggles to keep pace, begging her to slow down. The dumplings turn out perfect, lamb without being greasy, radish balancing everything out. I daydream briefly about beef and carrot dumplings, except cattle are basically non-existent around here. The whole village only has 4 oxen, heavily protected by law. Beef stays a fantasy for now. After breakfast, Dad threads 15 copper coins onto red string and tucks them under each kid's pillow. Small gesture, big meaning. Then comes the kowtowing and well wishes to the elders. Everyone's waiting to hear what my little brother says, since Mom spent all last night coaching him. He kneels, delivers his line about wishing our parents happiness and Aunt and Uncle a full recovery, and the room melts. Aunt scoops him up immediately, showering him with kisses and stuffing a red envelope straight into his new coat pocket. In the afternoon, the village head makes his rounds blessing every household. That evening we eat dumplings and sit up together through the night, keeping the traditional oil lamp burning until morning without letting it go out. Right after midnight, Aunt serves sweet rice balls with sesame and red bean filling, picked specifically because she knows I love the sweet kind. My siblings barely make it through their bowl before falling asleep on the spot. I help Mom get them changed and tucked in. Mom tells me to get some rest too, since I'm heading into the mountains tomorrow and need to be sharp. I agree and lie down, but sleep doesn't come easy for either of my parents that night. Dad's still awake beside her. Mom tells him to stop worrying, that we're staying home this year instead of visiting the old house. Dad mutters bitterly that even if she wanted to bring the kids back to pay respects, their parents probably wouldn't even let them through the door, still convinced I'm nothing but a thief in their eyes. Silence follows. Then Mom, hopeful, points out that the scholar's public apology should have cleared my name completely by now. Surely even Grandpa and Grandma can't still think of me that way.